Chapter 2032. Boom, boom, boom. The heavens test was still going on. The third wave made Patriarch Chin speechless. 5 thunderbolts were gathered together, and there was more great purple flames this time. Average warriors would not be able to stand it. They would be smashed into pieces or incinerated into ashes of the third heavens test. After the third wave of the heavenly tribulation was over, Elder Chun immediately looked at Commander Wang. The latter nodded slightly and said, "He's not dead. The array is still guiding the heavenly tribulation. This kid's physical body is so strong that he can't even die from the heavenly tribulation." Someone else noticed this as well. There were more and more colorful clouds in the sky. The heavens test was still going on, which meant that Lu Li was still alive. Is this man cultivating a supreme divine body? Not even warriors at the peak of the second tribulation can survive such a powerful heavens test. It is possible. Otherwise, there is no other explanation. Either he is of miraculous birth, or he has a freakish body type. But I have never heard of such a body type in the family of the Demon King. I have never heard of the descendants of the 10 assassins. Who is this man? Let's wait and see. There are 2 more heavens tests. If he can survive the Souls test and the Chaos test, he can come out and we will all know who he is. The Souls test is still okay. At this rate, the Chaos test will be horrifying. Not even warriors at the peak of the second tribulation can survive it. People were discussing loudly. After all, such a strange thing had happened. Everyone was moved. Many here were second tribulation heaven immortals, and some were at the third tribulation. They had all gone through several heavens tests and were familiar with them. Many were second tribulation heaven immortals, and some were at the third tribulation. They had all gone through several heavens tests and were familiar with them. Phew. Lu Li was burnt to a crisp inside the demon salvation platform. But he made it. His body had been improved so many times that it was freakishly strong. He was fine no matter how many thunderbolts there were. It was the great purple flames that burned him all over. Instead of healing himself, he took out the soul fixation pellet given to him by Patriarch Chun and consumed it. He knew very well that the soul's test was coming. The soul's test attacked his soul, his heart. His physical wounds could be healed over time. After swallowing the soul-stabilizing pill, he also swallowed some spirit marrow. At this moment, his entire body was burned by the fire, and he was like a furnace. Swallowing spirit marrow could quickly heal his injuries. As expected, once the divine quintessence entered his body, his entire body felt ice cold. The burning sensation on his skin lessened significantly. As he circulated his divine power, he quietly waited for the arrival of the soul tribulation. Hiss! After a while, a bolt of purple thunderbolt whooshed across the sky. The thunderbolt was not thick or powerful, but Lu Li felt his soul tremble. The most terrifying soul tribulation had arrived. The purple thunderbolt struck down. A surge of strange energy entered Lu Li's soul. He felt the world in front of him disappeared, and he reappeared in a barren mountain. Everything was so real. Lu Li had forgotten that he was going through a tribulation. His mind was blank. He had forgotten everything about the second heaven. There's a city up ahead. Lu Li stood on the peak and tried his best to look into the distance. He saw a city. After some thoughts, he flew over. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, he arrived at the edge of the city and saw a scene that shocked him. He saw people fighting in the city and a familiar figure. It was Yin Hong. Lu Li's memory of the second heaven was wiped out. Naturally, he did not know that Yin Hong had died. Out of instinct, Lu Li wanted to run away. Whoosh! However, a group of people flew up from a city. Lu Li's eyes were wide open when he saw them. It was Ling Qingyin, Pan Yuqin, his father, Lu Ren Huang, and his grandfather, Lu Zhengyang. Bang! Yin Hong chopped off Lu Ren Huang's head with his saber. Then, he cut Ling Qingyin, Lu Zhengyang, and Pan Yuqin in half from the waist. Blood sprayed everywhere. Lu Ren Huang's head rolled on the ground. This scene drove Lu Li crazy. With his eyes reddened, he rushed over and began to fight without caring about anything else. Boom! He had actually killed Yin Hong with a single slash. He stood on the city wall and looked at the soldiers and experts in the city. The ground was filled with corpses, and they were all people he was familiar with. They were all his relatives, lovers, friends, and clansmen. He saw Jiang Qiling by Qiu Xue, by Xia Shuang, and Qi Shi'er. He saw countless people dying tragically on the ground. He saw many enemies as well. He saw Zhuo Qiulu, the demon, and Yao Xing. He dashed down in a frenzy. He wanted to tear all the enemies apart. However, there seemed to be more and more enemies. He would never be able to kill them all. His eyes had turned red. He was losing his mind. He had become a lunatic. The only thing on his mind was to tear everyone in front of him apart and kill them. Charge, charge, charge. He sat on the demon salvation platform with his legs crossed. He was filled with murderous intent. His facial expressions were ferocious. He kept roaring and brandishing his claws and fangs, as if there were enemies in front of him and he wanted to tear them apart. As soon as the tribulation of mind and soul appeared, Lu Li fell for it. He could not fight back at all. There were too many things in his heart that he couldn't let go of. There were too many things that he was worried about. Many things had become demons in his mind that he could not get rid of. They were like ashes in autumn that could be ignited at the slightest touch. Lu Li knew this very well. That was why he didn't go through the heavens tribulation. He was afraid that he would fall victim to the tribulation of mind and soul. In his current situation, if nothing unexpected happened, he would completely lose his mind and eventually become a lunatic. But something unexpected happened. The medicinal power of the stabilizing soul pill spread and entered his soul. His restless soul gradually calmed down. The lucid consciousness in his mind gradually awakened, and slowly the memories in his mind came back to him one by one. After the time for one incense stick to burn, he was not as ferocious as before, and the murderous intent was not as strong. But his body began to tremble. Clearly, the efficacy of the soul fixation pellet was fighting against the energy of the tribulation of mind and soul. Admittedly, the pellet given by Fairy Tianyun was powerful. After the time for another incense stick to burn, Lu Li had calmed down and his breaths were steady. Boom, boom, boom. Bolts of purple thunderbolts kept striking down, but Lu Li was not in the same state as before. As time moved on, the 99 bolts of purple thunderbolts finally stopped. Lu Li opened his eyes. The soul fixation pellet is so powerful. Lu Li exhaled. If it were not for the soul fixation pellet, he would have lost his mind. Even if he was not, his soul would be hurt. Once the tribulation of primordial chaos came down, he would be smashed into pieces. There was some sweat on his forehead. He thought to himself that unless absolutely necessary, he would not go through the third heaven's tribulation. For him, heaven's tribulation was too horrifying. After the time for one incense stick to burn, Lu Li's eyes were filled with determination and passion. Chapter 2033. Okay. Somehow, Patriarch Chan was relieved that Lu Li was still alive after the tribulation of mind and soul. There was only one more tribulation to go, and Lu Li would have a better chance. The onlookers became livelier as well. They were waiting for Lu Li to be killed by the tribulation of primordial chaos or to walk out successfully so that they could see who he was. Time moved on. After the time for one incense stick to burn, colorful clouds came from all sides. Previously, there were only 5 colored clouds. This time, there were 7 colored clouds. Boom, 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 one after another, the lightning dragons flew through the air. Terrifying divine might permeated the air, causing everyone in the surroundings to be shocked. Many people hurriedly retreated with fear in their eyes. Even the third tribulation, heaven immortals, stepped back. The pressure in heaven and earth was overwhelming. They were afraid to be implicated. No. This tribulation of primordial chaos is 10 times stronger than usual. How can this man survive? Yes, this man is doomed. Even a warrior at the peak of the second tribulation would die in such a horrifying tribulation of primordial chaos. He is just a warrior at the first tribulation. Even if he has some treasures, he will be turned into ashes. Such a shame. This man must be of miraculous birth. He is a good seedling, but he is destined to be destroyed. As the pressure of the tribulation of primordial chaos grew stronger, everyone's mind was weighed down. It was a pity that such a good seedling was going to be destroyed. After all, this was a talent of the Omen Island. When he grew up, he could protect the Omen Island. So overbearing? Axe Demon, who was in the luxurious palace in the city, put down the jar of wine in his hand. He frowned, and a trace of worry appeared in his eyes. Saber Demon and Arrow Demon's gazes also turned solemn. The two of them seemed to be able to see the sky above the Demon Ferry platform through the city's barrier. Saber Demon looked for a while and said, "This is only the second heavenly tribulation. If it is the third or fourth heavenly tribulation, how terrifying would it be? No wonder it is so hard to cultivate the supreme immortal body. Even the gods are jealous." Arrow Demon said in a creepy voice, "Get ready to bury him. He cannot survive." Swish! As soon as the Arrow Demon finished speaking, a rainbow-colored lightning bolt descended from the sky. This lightning bolt was not particularly large, only as thick as an arm. However, its power was shocking. It felt as if nothing could stop the rainbow-colored lightning bolt's attack. Everything would be turned to dust. "Come!" Luli opened his eyes, which were filled with madness. He could feel the terror of the tribulation of primordial chaos. That kind of pressure reached the depth of his heart, making his soul tremble. Seal of the Dust King. He took out the small seal, made it bigger, and placed it above his head. At the same time, he held the godly metal in his other hand, ready to activate it at any time. If the Dust King's seal could not withstand it, he could only rely on the godly metal to withstand it. Boom! 7 colored thunderbolts rumbled down and landed on the Dust King's seal that had grown to a size of 10 feet. The Dust King's seal was able to withstand it, but it was smashed down and landed on Lu Li. At the same time, thunderbolts entered Lu Li's body as well. Along with the thunderbolts came a strange energy. The energy contained a strong attribute of destruction. It was trying to destroy Lu Li's source of life. Fortunately, not much energy entered Lu Li's body. Lu Li mobilized divine energy at once and dissolved all the energy. Is this the chaos energy? Lu Li was taken aback. If it weren't for the Dust King's seal, all the chaotic chi in the 7 colored thunderbolts would have gone into his body and he would have died. Boom, boom, boom. From above came a rumbling noise. The second bolt of 7 colored thunderbolt was about to fall. Lu Li flew up in the seal of the Dust King at once. At the same time, he mobilized divine energy in his body, ready to defend against the descending stream of primordial chaos. Boom! The Dust King's seal was smashed away again. The thunderbolts landed on Lu Li. Strand after strand of chaos energy entered Lu Li's body and wandered around, searching for the source of life to destroy. There is more chaos energy now. Lu Li made up his mind and mobilized divine energy to fight back. He enveloped all the chaos energy and dissolved it one by one. Even though all the chaos energy had been dissolved, his expressions were getting more and more awful. The chaos energy had increased. If more thunderbolts were to come, how could he fight back? He had the godly metal. When the godly metal was activated, he believed he could disperse all the thunderbolts and the chaos energy. However, the godly metal had a fatal flaw. After one use, all the divine energy would be absorbed. In other words, the godly metal could only be used once. After that, he would have no more divine energy left. He couldn't even use the Dust King's seal. If there were more thunderbolts after he used the godly metal, then he would have to wait for death. I wonder how many thunderbolts there are. If it is 99 like before, then I will be doomed. Lu Li thought to himself. The source of life was the most important thing. Once it was severely injured, not to mention destroyed, his life would be over. Unless he could get some miraculous elixir, he would become so sick that he couldn't even lift his saber. Boom! The third thunderbolt came down. Same as before, the Dust King's seal was smashed away. More chaos energy came down. This time, it was more difficult for Lu Li to dissolve it. When all the chaos energy was dissolved, Lu Li's face turned pale. He would not be able to dissolve it all the next time. He had two choices: to use the godly metal or to die. What to do? What to do? Lu Li thought about it. The thunderbolts would not stop anytime soon. There would be at least 9, if not 99. It was only the third, and he was already struggling. What should he do next? Boom! The fourth thunderbolt came down. After the Dust King seal was smashed away, the chaos energy came down. Finally, Lu Li could not stand it anymore. Some of the chaos energy was not dissolved, and it hurt his source of life. Poof! Lu Li spat out some blood. His face was as pale as snow. He was trembling as if he was seriously ill. The source of life was the most important thing in the human body. Once it was damaged, it would be a devastating blow to the body. No, if I don't use the godly metal, I will die in the next one. An idea came to Lu Li's mind. He stared at the sky, waiting for the next thunderbolt. His eyes were dim. This was the heavens' tribulation. Nobody could help him, not even Fairy Tian Yun or the Demon King. Swish, the fifth thunderbolt came down. It was more powerful than before. Lu Li made up his mind and used the godly metal to smash at the sky. The godly metal gave off a dark glare. Streaks of red light surrounded the godly metal. Something strange was circulating. Lu Li smashed at the godly metal. The 7-colored thunderbolts in the sky were all destroyed. Not a single strand of chaos energy came down. Lu Li's divine energy was drained. He had taken some drops of divine liquid at once, but it was impossible for him to use the godly metal in a short time. Up in the sky, lightning was still flashing and thunder rumbling. The next thunderbolt was about to come down. Am I going to die here? Chapter 2034. At the moment of life and death, Lu Li's mind was clear and he was thinking fast. He thought through all the sacred arts and treasures he knew, trying to think of a way to resist the chaos tribulation. It was just that his supernatural power could not withstand the chaos tribulation. His most powerful treasures were the Dust King's seal and the godly metal. The 9 strange mountains were originally a secret treasure, but 3 of them were missing. If he took out the divine mountain now, it would probably be shattered. The ghost beads and dharma seals were even worse. The dragon soul was also unreliable. The dragon soul was only a demon soul and could only protect the soul. Escape? Leave the demon transcending platform and stop the heavenly tribulation? This probably wouldn't work either. Putting aside the fact that he wouldn't be able to get out, even if he did, the next chaos calamity would probably strike down immediately. It would be too late. How do we block the primal chaos chi? How can we block it? Lu Li was not afraid of the 7-colored thunderbolts. No thunderbolt could kill him, no matter how strong it was. What he feared the most was the chaotic chi contained in the 7-colored thunderbolts. The chaotic chi was so powerful that it could destroy a warrior's source of life directly. Chaos energy, grand mist energy, they feel similar. So why are their attributes completely different? Lu Li thought of the primordial chaos. He had consumed a lot of primordial chaos to strengthen his body. Why was one beneficial to the body and the other destructive to the source of life? Grand mist energy? All right. The thought of the primordial chaos stirred Lu Li's heart. He remembered something, what happened in the primordial realm. He carved a trace of the great Tao in the primordial mystic realm and then absorbed all the primordial chi in the mystic realm. Then, could he use the marks of the grand Tao to absorb the chaotic aura? If he could absorb the primal chaos chi, then he would be able to control the primal chaos chi, and it would not actively stimulate his life essence. Hiss! When the 6th thunderbolt came, Lu Li had no time to think. He used some divine energy that he had just cultivated to activate the Dust King seal above his head. Then, he exerted the mark of Tao with all his strength. The Dust King seal was smashed away. Most of the thunderbolts and air of chaos fell down and entered Lu Li's body. The thunderbolts were absorbed by the lightning collection formation, and the primordial chi entered Lu Li's body, destroying his source of life on its own. At the moment, Lu Li was tense to the extreme. He urged the trace of the great path to absorb the energy of primordial chaos. All right, what happened next made Luli ecstatic. After he activated the marks of the great Tao, the chaotic chi that had just entered his body was suddenly affected. Originally, the chaotic chi was like wild lions roaring in his body, but under the influence of the marks of the great Tao, they all became docile lambs and gathered in his lower abdomen, just like the primordial chi in the past. Good, good. When all the energy of primordial chaos was gathered in his abdomen, Lu Li was trembling with excitement. He felt he had just taken a trip to hell. He did not dare to move recklessly, fearing that the chaotic chi in his body would go berserk. He felt as if there was a bomb buried in his body. Once the chaotic chi went berserk, he would immediately be smashed into pieces. After waiting for a moment and confirming that the primal chaos aura did not go berserk, he felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. His eyes also began to become spirited. If he could completely suppress the primal chaos chi, he would be able to survive and successfully pass the second heavenly tribulation. The eighth bolt of rainbow lightning came down. This time, the pressure in heaven and earth was even stronger. Many onlookers were trembling in fear. Many third tribulation heaven gods were speechless. Not even they could survive such a horrifying tribulation of primordial chaos. What kind of body did the man have? Why was he still alive? Patriarch Chen clenched his fists nervously. He murmured, "This is the 8th time. Survive this one. There is one more. Luli, you must survive." This is getting interesting. Inside the palace, Demon of Axe, Demon of Blade, and Demon of Arrow saw that the formation at the Demon Salvation platform did not stop after the 8th bolt of rainbow lightning. The three of them looked at each other in surprise. If Luli could survive such a horrifying tribulation of primordial chaos, then there was a good chance that he could survive the second heavenly tribulation. There was only one last time. If he could survive the first 8, then the last one should be fine. Boom, boom, boom. The last tribulation of primordial chaos took a long time to build up. After the time for one incense stick to burn, a bolt of rainbow lightning as thick as a human head finally came down. When the last bolt of primordial chaos came down, the tribulation clouds in the sky dispersed. The sky became clear and sunny. At the same time, Demon of Blade had the shield of the Asmodean city shut down. Many people in the city rushed out and swarmed toward the Demon Salvation platform. They wanted to see if the man was alive or not. Many powerful psychic power came out as well, waiting for the formation of the Demon Salvation platform to be shut down. Buzzing, the formation on the Demon Salvation platform glowed and then disappeared. Many people used psychic power to check on the man sitting in the center of the Demon Salvation platform. He is alive. Patriarch Chen checked and was overjoyed to find that Lu Li was still alive. He flew up to the Demon Salvation platform and stood next to Lu Li to protect him. Many people at the Demon Salvation platform were stunned. This man was still alive? They could tell that he had just reached the second tribulation realm. More importantly, this man was a complete stranger. None of the more than 200,000 people at the Demon Salvation platform knew Lu Li. Lu Li had never been to the Asmodean city before. He had been staying at the Cloud Mountain. Apart from a few people at the Cloud Mountain, nobody knew him. How could these people know who he was? Patriarch Chun of the Cloud Mountain. Is he from the Cloud Mountain? Is he from Fairy Tian Yun's family? Someone recognized Patriarch Chun, and they began to discuss. Anyways, Lu Li had made a name for himself at the Asmodean city. After all, it was hard for Lu Li not to be famous, since he could affect such a freakish heaven's tribulation and survive. Lu Li didn't open his eyes. When the last bolt of primordial chaos came down, he contained all the primordial chi. He put away the dust king seal and the relic iron, put on a set of clothes, and began to cultivate. There was a lot of primordial chi in his body, which was like a bomb. He must take good care of it, or else he would be smashed into pieces if the primordial chi went berserk. Therefore, he had no time to worry about what was going on outside. He cultivated at once and tried to consume the primordial chi in his body. Patriarch Chen didn't know Lu Li's real situation, but he noticed that Lu Li was cultivating, so he protected him. Lu Li seemed to be very weak at the moment. There was blood all over his body. He was wounded. Whoosh! All of a sudden, a leader flew over from the city. Patriarch Chen put his guard up. The leader stood more than 300 feet away from Patriarch Chen and Lu Li. He glanced at Lu Li, cupped his fists, and said, Lord Blade Demon said that he should go to the mansion of the city lord after he comes out from cultivation. Lord Axe, Lord Blade, and Lord Arrow want to see him. What? Everyone was surprised. 3 of the top 3 of the 10 Slayer generals wanted to see Lu Li at the same time. This was a declaration to the entire city not to have any ideas about Lu Li. Anyone who dared to do anything would be killed by the 3. Yes. Chapter 2035. Lu Li did not wake up for a while. He cultivated for 3 days and 3 nights. There was a mass of primordial energy in his body. It was like a ticking time bomb that he could not rest in peace for even a moment. After 3 days, he still could not dissolve the primal chaos chi. He thought of many methods, but the primal chaos chi was like a stinky and hard rock. No matter how he tried, he could not move it at all. Just like the primordial energy, it could not be moved or dissolved. Lu Li was troubled. Back then, he had to dissolve the primordial energy bit by bit with the help of thunderbolts and absorb it into his 720 acupoints. Now, the primordial energy and thunderbolts were striking down together. Could thunderbolts dissolve the primordial energy? Clearly, this was not feasible. If lightning could not neutralize it, then what could neutralize the chaotic chi? 3 days later, Lu Li stopped cultivating. He was not in a hurry to leave, nor did he talk to Patriarch Chen. Instead, he waved his hand to stop Patriarch Chen from talking. First, Lu Li moved his arm, stood up, moved his body, and tried to use divine energy. Then, he walked around the demon salvation platform to make sure that the primordial energy would not be disturbed because of his movement. Then he was relieved. What is it? Patriarch Chen saw that Lu Li was solemn. He was not happy about the heaven tribulation. Patriarch Chen asked in surprise, Lu Li, what is it? Let's go back and talk. Lu Li waved his hand. Patriarch Chen did not ask more questions. Instead, he said, Lu Li, Lord Axe, Lord Blade, and Lord Arrow have asked for you. Lu Li was surprised. Why did the 3 suddenly want to see him? That being said, Lu Li had a good impression of Lord Axe. He did not ask any questions. He nodded and flew down the demon salvation platform with Patriarch Chen. There were not many onlookers. They had all seen Lu Li, so it was pointless for them to stay. That being said, Lu Li and Patriarch Chen had attracted many people's attention. Why are they looking at me like this? Lu Li touched his nose embarrassedly and asked. Patriarch Chen replied with a smile. You don't know how powerful the heavens test you created is. It was as powerful as the 3rd heaven tribulation. There were some strange things like the great purple flame. Not for the average warrior. Lu Li already felt something was off when he was going through the heavens tribulation. Now, it seemed that his heavens tribulation was different from others. While walking, Lu Li asked, why is this happening? It should be because of the supreme divine body. Elder Chen had been thinking about this problem for many days. He said his guess, you transcended the tribulation too late. In addition, your physical body is so powerful that the laws of heaven and earth sensed it, so the heavenly tribulation is doubled. I see. Lu Li nodded. He made up his mind again that he would never go through tribulations again. If he did, he would die in the heavens tribulation. They followed Elder Chen to the City Lord mansion. A guard outside led them in. Axe Demon and the other 2 were still drinking in the palace. Greetings, my lords. Lu Li and Patriarch Chen bowed. The Axe Demon nodded with a smile. The Blade Demon looked dignified and serious. The archer raised his head slightly and looked at Lu Li. His gaze was as sharp as a sword. Sit down. The Blade Demon waved his hand. Lu Li and Patriarch Chen sat down on the platform. Patriarch Chen was a bit nervous. After all, the 3 of them were the 3 famous warriors the most powerful below the level of Asmodeans. They should be more powerful than Fairy Tianyan. Luli, on the other hand, was not so nervous. Maybe it was because the axe demon was looking at him with a smile. Luli felt at ease. After they sat down, the axe demon even raised his goblet and said, "Luli, congratulations on your second heaven's tribulation. Here, let's drink to you." "Thank you, Lord Axe Demon." "Thank you, my lords." Luli stood up, picked up the goblet with respect, and gulped it down. To his surprise, the wine was like on fire. As soon as it entered his throat, he felt his body was burning. He choked and coughed. He had to open his mouth to breathe. "Ha ha ha." The three of them laughed. Even the blade demon and the archer demon smiled. They looked at Luli with kindness. The axe demon laughed and said, "You have such a strong body that you can survive the heaven's tribulation. Can't you handle this liquor?" Luli smiled in embarrassment. He made up his mind and drank up the rest of the wine. Then he cupped his fists and said, "My lords, I am sorry. You're Luli, right?" The blade demon was curious. He asked, "How did you survive the last heaven's tribulation of primordial chaos? I don't see that your source of life is harmed much. Do you have some kind of treasure?" Luli's heart skipped a beat. The axe demon knew he had divine iron, but the blade demon and the archer demon didn't. He couldn't tell the world about this, could he? What was more, he didn't rely on divine iron to survive. Luli thought of something, cupped his fists, and said, "I don't have any treasure. I cultivated a cultivation method by chance. At the critical moment, I used it randomly and absorbed all the divine iron. I'm still troubled. There's a mass of divine iron inside me. I don't know how to deal with it. Lords, please teach me." "You absorbed it?" The blade demon, the archer demon, and the axe demon looked at each other. They were surprised. The axe demon thought about it and said, "Come closer. Let me have a look." Luli walked over to the axe demon. The latter put a hand on Luli's wrist. A surge of energy quietly entered Luli's body. The axe demon closed his eyes. After the time for one incense stick to burn, he opened his eyes and said, "This is strange. The divine iron is really absorbed into his body. It is floating in his abdomen. There is a lot of it." The blade demon and the archer demon were surprised again. They knew very well that the divine iron had properties of destruction. The divine iron could destroy a person's source of life. They also knew that some powerful warriors could refine the divine iron in their weapons. When they attacked, the divine iron could annihilate the source of life of their enemies. But Luli could absorb the divine iron. What was more, the divine iron was not agitated and it didn't attack his source of life. Instead, it was staying in his body. They had never heard of such a strange thing. Luli was getting impatient since the three didn't say anything. He asked, "Lords, do you have a way to force the divine iron out of my body? Don't act rashly." The axe demon said, "Once the divine iron is agitated, not even an almighty God can save you." The blade demon and the archer demon nodded. The axe demon thought about it and said, "How about this? I will take you to the Devil King and see if she can help." Meet the Devil King? Luli was surprised. He didn't expect that he would have the chance to meet this legendary warrior. She was the first or second most powerful warrior of the second heaven. Aren't you going to thank the three lords? Chapter 2036. The three lords didn't go with Luli. Axe Demon took Luli out of the mansion and into a castle in the backyard. Luli had thought that the demon lord was living in the castle. He didn't expect that there was a teleportation formation in the castle. Axe Demon stood in front of the teleportation formation and said, "When you see the demon lord, don't talk and don't look around. Just stand there and wait for my signal." "Yes." Luli nodded with respect. Even he felt pressured when he was faced with the most powerful warrior of the second heaven. The main reason was that this woman was so legendary. Her fame was awe-inspiring. Axe Demon activated the teleportation formation. After a white glare, they arrived at an island surrounded by the sea. The demon lord didn't live on the Omen Island. The island had a beautiful view. The trees were lush and the flowers were everywhere. The scent of the spirit Shi was very rich here. Luli believed that there must be a powerful spirit gathering formation here. Otherwise, how could a small island have such rich spirit chi? They appeared on the beach. Axe Demon didn't go in rashly. Instead, he bowed and said, "Lord, I want to see you." After the time for 5 breaths, a cold voice came. "Come in." Axe Demon bowed with utmost respect. There was no longer a lazy smile on his face. Instead, he looked solemn. Luli followed behind him, holding his breath. They walked along the path into the island. After passing through the woods, they came to a cabin. Before Luli had the time to look around, 2 streaks of black light suddenly flew over. They were so fast that they were like 2 meteor hammers. In an instant, they were in front of Luli and Axe Demon. Axe Demon reached out a hand and grabbed the black shadow. Luli tried to dodge, but he was too slow. The black shadow hit him in the chest. Crack! The black shadow turned out to be a fruit. It fell apart and dirted Luli's clothes. A dissatisfied voice of a child came out. "This man is so weak. He can't even catch a fruit." Luli looked over in surprise. He saw a chubby little girl sitting on the roof with some black fruits in her hands. She was looking down at Luli with contempt in her eyes. Axe Demon smiled, cupped his fists, and said, "Don't be naughty, princess. Luli has just passed the 2nd heaven's tribulation. How can he catch the fruit you threw at him?" "Little princess?" Luli frowned. Could she be the daughter of the Demon King? Wasn't it rumored that the great Demon King wasn't married? How did she have a daughter? Not fun. The chubby girl pouted. All of a sudden, she stood up and flew into the distance. Luli felt his vision blurred, and then the girl was gone. This speed, Luli was speechless. The kid was so fast. He must be as fast as a warrior at the peak of the 3rd tribulation. How could a child who looked at most 4 or 5 years old have such a fast speed? Could it be that she had the battle prowess of the peak of the 3rd tribulation? Don't think too much. It's not what you think it is. Don't ask too much, and don't tell anyone about this. Axe Demon's voice rang in Luli's mind. Luli was even more surprised. Not what he thought it was. Then what was it? What was the identity of this little girl? "Come in." A cold female voice came from the room. Axe Demon led Luli into the cabin. The furnishings in the cabin were simple, just some simple wooden furniture. There was no one inside, but there were 2 doors. Axe Demon pushed one of them open and walked into the backyard. There was a garden in the backyard. Luli followed Axe Demon in and saw a girl sitting under a pavilion in the garden. The girl was sitting on a cattail hassock with her legs crossed. She had a string of Buddhist beads in her left hand and a book in her right hand. She was reading. She wore a long black dress and had a slim figure. Her entire body exuded a very unique temperament. Zen. That was right. Luli saw a trace of Zen in the girl. She was like a transcendent being, like a Buddha. There was a touch of Buddha nature and holiness about her. What surprised Luli was that the girl didn't wear any mask and her face was not blurry. However, Luli couldn't see her face clearly. To be exact, Luli could see her face clearly, but he had no memory of her. There was no image of her in his soul. This was a strange feeling that he could not put into words. Luli couldn't recognize the girl no matter how hard he tried. What kind of skill is this? Luli was taken aback. This skill was unimaginable. It must be some kind of secret skill. Axe Demon walked to the pavilion, got down on one knee with respect, and said, "Greetings, my lord." Luli came to his senses and walked over. He was about to get down on one knee when the Devil Lord said, "You are not my subordinate. You don't have to bow. What do you want to see me for?" Even though the Devil Lord had a sense of Zen and Buddha nature about her, her words were cold. She was filled with killing intent, which made people feel uncomfortable. Since the Devil Lord had said so, Luli didn't kneel. He just bowed. He stood on the side with his hands down, not daring to look or say anything. Axe Demon stood up and explained, "This is Luli, the one in the brainstorm sea. He is transformed into the Hell Killer. He just went through the 2nd heaven's tribulation at the demon traversing platform. Because of his strong body, the heaven's tribulation he attracted was very powerful. During the tribulation of primordial chaos, he accidentally absorbed some chaotic energy into his body. He wants to ask you how to deal with the chaotic energy in his body. Luli still didn't say anything. He just bowed again. For the first time, the Devil Lord looked up. Luli felt she was looking at him. It was as if two rays of Buddha light had enveloped him. All his secrets could be seen through. The Devil Lord looked away and went back to her book. She seemed to be thinking about the chaotic energy as well. She said nothing. Axe Demon and Luli held their breaths. Even though the Devil Lord didn't release any pressure, she alone was enough to make people feel as if they were walking on thin ice. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, the Devil Lord finally said, "Since the chaotic energy is in your body, it will not go berserk. Don't think of the chaotic energy as terrifying. Sometimes, destruction means new life. The chaotic energy can destroy the source of all life. It is a very powerful energy. If you can make good use of it, Luli, you will be closer to the supreme immortal body." The chaotic energy can be absorbed? Luli was both surprised and delighted. If the chaotic energy could be absorbed like the primordial chaos energy, then his physical body would be improved many times. He would be one step closer to the supreme immortal body. After some thoughts, Luli couldn't help but bow and ask, "How can I absorb the chaotic energy? Can you tell me the right way? I have never cultivated an immortal body, so I cannot give you any advice." The Devil Lord waved her hand and said, "You will have to figure it out yourself. Think about how you can absorb the chaotic energy into your body. Start with that. Since you can suppress the chaotic energy, then you must have a way to absorb it. Okay, you can leave now. Thank you, my lord." Chapter 2037. Axe Demon did not ask Luli to stay after they left the island. He only said that if Luli needed anything, Luli could come to his mansion. This made Luli feel flattered. It seemed like the Axe Demon was treating him a little too well. It just so happened that Axe Demon did not want anything from Luli. Axe Demon knew Luli had the divine iron, but he had no intention of taking it. The most valuable thing Axe Demon had was the divine iron, which might be a fragment of a holy weapon. Since Axe Demon did not want the divine iron, then Luli could not figure out why Axe Demon was being so nice to him. There was no hatred or love for no reason in the world. Luli did not believe that Axe Demon was being so nice to him out of pure admiration. Maybe I am overthinking? Luli pondered as he walked. Maybe Axe Demon was simply trying to help the younger generation. Luli walked out of the mansion after a while, but he could not figure it out. Let's go back now. Patriarch Chun was waiting outside the mansion. Seeing Luli come out, Patriarch Chun showed Luli to the teleportation formation and went back to the Cloud Mountain without asking any questions. "I will report to Fairy Tian Yun." Patriarch Chun went to see Fairy Tian Yun by himself. After a while, he came back and said, "She is in closed-door cultivation, so she will not call you in. She told me to congratulate you and to stabilize your realm. The contest of geniuses is about to begin." Okay, Luli went back to where he lived. He took a bath and then ordered some food and wine. He felt he had a narrow escape from the gates of hell, and it was worth celebrating. This time, Lady E did not come, which surprised Luli. Lady E came and went like a ghost. He did not know where she lived. When she appeared, he could see her. If she didn't, he would not know where to find her. After resting for half a day, Luli sat in his room with his legs crossed and began to think about what the Demon Lord said. If he could consume the energy of primordial chaos, his physical strength would be improved by several times. This was the energy of primordial chaos. Think about how you can absorb the energy of primordial chaos into your body. Start from there. If you can suppress the energy of primordial chaos, then you must have a way to absorb it. Remembering what the Demon Lord said, the first thing that came to Luli's mind was the trace of the Great Tao. He could absorb the energy of primordial chaos with the help of the trace of the Great Tao. In the past, he had absorbed the Grand Mist energy because of the Great Tao scar. The mark of Great Tao came from the primordial realm. Luli carved it into his body. In other words, if I can completely comprehend the traces of the Great Tao, I will be able to refine the chaos aura. Luli had some ideas. But how should he study the trace of great Tao? Luli, on the other hand, was not so sure. The trace of Tao was mysterious. He did not understand it, but he did not know where to start. Let's refine a divine medicine first. This time, I've damaged some of my life force. Luli took out a stock of heaven and earth elixir. During the heavenly tribulation, he had damaged a bit of his source of life. If he did not repair it, it would be problematic in the future. He had a lot of divine medicines of heaven and earth, including 2 that could heal the life essence. After spending a day refining them, he felt refreshed and full of vigor, as if he had become much younger. After transcending the tribulation, I feel like my whole body has transformed. My physical body should have improved a lot. Luli checked. After the heavenly tribulation, he felt that all aspects of his body had been improved. His physical body, divine energy, and soul had all been sublimated. He felt his pellets had grown larger and could store more divine energy now. His soul had turned into a dark golden color, a clear sign that it had been strengthened. As for his physical body, he did not feel much except that it had been improved a bit. I will consume the divine marrow while studying the trace of great Tao. Luli activated the inhibition formation in the room. While consuming the divine marrow, he studied the trace of great Tao in his body. There was more divine marrow left. He could improve his physical body after consuming it. The heavenly tribulation had improved his physical body, but not by much. If he could consume all the divine marrow, his physical body would be several times stronger. Once the divine marrow entered his body, most of it was absorbed by his bones. His bones began to turn dark yellow. The 10 body refinement items were created by nature. With each passing day, Luli could clearly feel that his physical body was different. He had been cultivating for over a month and consumed another 1/5 of the divine marrow. His bones had turned dark yellow, and there was no sign of them turning black. Luli was not disappointed, since he was prepared for this. Patriarch Chun was here. The contest of geniuses was about to begin. Luli must stop cultivating. He stood up and stretched his body. With every move, he felt he was filled with endless strength. Looking at his glistening skin, he was satisfied. His physical body should be stronger than a warrior at the middle stage of the third tribulation. An average warrior at the third tribulation would not be able to kill Luli without some particularly powerful moves. They might not even be able to inflict serious injuries on him. Such a shame. If I had another half a year to consume all the divine marrow, I would be able to kill Yun Kaiwe in the contest of geniuses. Luli was a bit disappointed. If he had consumed all the divine marrow, Yun Kaiwe wouldn't be able to kill him even if he just stood there, unless Yun Kaiwe had a holy weapon fragment as well. Luli made no progress after studying the trace of great Tao for over a month. It was too abstruse for him to know where to start. There were thousands of traces of great Tao, which formed a mysterious diagram that included everything. It was difficult to learn even a corner of it, let alone a complete understanding. Let's go. Luli walked out. Patriarch Chun was already waiting outside. Lady Yi was standing next to Patriarch Chun. She was sticking her tongue out and smiling mischievously. Patriarch Chun, Lady Yi. Luli saluted. Patriarch Chun nodded and said, "In this contest of geniuses, there are 4 from the Omen Island. Apart from the 2 of you, there is a descendant of the Axe Demon and a young man named by the Demon King himself. Now, you will come with me to the Omen City and meet up with the other 2. We will go to the Island of Chaos together. The 2 of you only have one mission, to kill the young master of the St. Origin Hall, Yin Kaiwe." Luli was not surprised at all. He was just curious. Lady Yi was going to carry out this mission as well? Was Lady Yi also chosen by Fairy Tianyin? Was there another trap? Was she afraid that Luli could not kill Yin Kaiwe? So, she prepared another way? "Aha, Luli is enough," Lady Yi said with a smile. "Luli is so strong. He can kill the divine princes of the Hall of Black Flame and the Fu family. Killing Yin Kaiwe will be a piece of cake. I will just go and watch. Luli will win and come back in triumph." Luli rolled his eyes. He He was speechless, but it was not his place to argue with Lady E. He asked, "Don't we need to meet the fairy? Is there anything she wants to tell us?" "She is still in closed-door cultivation." Patriarch Chun explained, "She has sent me a message. This time, Axe Demon will go with you. Don't worry. As long as you don't leave the Island of Chaos, nobody will dare to touch you, even if you kill Yin Kaiwe." "Okay." Luli nodded and asked no more questions. Axe Demon was strong. Luli felt more at ease with him leading the team. Chapter 2038. You don't have to go back. Fairy Tian Yun's words put pressure on Luli. She didn't say that he didn't have to go back to the Cloud Mountain. She said that he didn't have to go back to the Omen Island. She was the favorite sister of the Asmodean king. Luli really couldn't survive at the Omen Island because of her words. Sometimes Fairy Tian Yun gave people the feeling that she was very amiable, but sometimes she gave people the feeling that she was cold and ruthless, making people unable to fathom her. But Luli and Fairy Tian Yun were partners. She would help Luli, and Luli would help her kill someone. She had helped Luli a lot, and now it was Luli's turn to help her. Luli thought about it and cupped his fists. "Patriarch Chun, tell her that if I cannot kill Yin Kaiwe, I will be too ashamed to come back." Lady nodded. Patriarch Chun brought them to the teleportation formation and teleported to the Omen City. The three of them walked toward the mansion of the city lord. Lady Yi's beauty attracted many people's attention. Luli had just caused a sensation not long ago. Many people in the city knew him, and they were talking about him. "Luli, I didn't know that you were so famous." Lady Yi approached Luli and whispered to him. Luli shrugged and said, "I'm more famous out there." "Ha, ha." Lady Yi stuck her tongue out mischievously and said, "If you kill Yun Kaiwe at the Island of Chaos, you will be even more famous. You have offended 3 super forces at once. I think you will have the whole world as your enemy." "Isn't the Asmodean king the whole world as well?" Luli said non-committally. "Any powerful warrior who wants to climb up must touch other people's interests and offend some forces. If you don't climb up by stepping on others, then you will become a stepping stone for others. Natural selection and survival of the fittest. This is an unchanging truth. You are ambitious. I have faith in you." Lady E giggled and said, "Luli, when you become the most powerful warrior at the second heaven, you must protect me." Luli wanted to tease her. He touched her with his arm and said, "This is not a problem. What is our relationship? Your business is my business, and your people are my people." "Bah!" Lady E blushed. She glared at Luli and said, "How dare you flirt with me? I will castrate you." "Ha ha ha." Luli smiled. He felt more relaxed after the conversation. A big battle was imminent. Only with a peaceful mind could he perform to the best of his ability. Elder Chun stated his purpose of coming, and the people from the city lord mansion brought them in. Blade Demon didn't appear, and neither did Axe Demon. That person just asked the 3 of them to sit in the side hall. "All of you take a look." Elder Chun took out 2 booklets and handed them over. "This is the genius ranking released 2 months ago. The people inside are probably your opponents." Luli hadn't been paying attention to this. He curiously took the book and flipped through it. The book was well made and very exquisite. There were portraits of the characters on it, which were drawn to perfection. There was also a brief introduction of the characters, as well as an introduction of their abilities. The ranking was backward, starting from the 100th. Luli saw that the 100th was a warrior at the peak of the Second Tribulation, a chosen one from a major force. Luli read on and memorized the information of those warriors. The ones at the beginning were not interesting. They were all at the peak of the Second Tribulation, but each of them had their own moves, and they were all young. At the 63rd place, Luli saw a familiar face, young Master Go from the Sea of Storms. Starting from his 63rd place, all of them were Third Tribulation Heaven Immortals. He saw more familiar faces. Lady Cheong, Lady Mu, young Master Bu, and young Master Chin were all on the list. Young Master Chin was at the top, at the 38th place. "Luli, you are on the list." Lady E suddenly shouted. Luli frowned. He took a look and saw that Luli was on the list. He was at the top, at the 32nd place. Written on the booklet was Hellish God of Massacre. His background was unknown. In the portrait, he had dragon wings on his back and a bronze mask. He was as fast as a warrior at the peak of the Third Tribulation. His physical body was strong, and his overall abilities were at the middle stage of the Third Tribulation. Middle stage of the Third Tribulation? Luli nodded. That was about right. The list was well researched. Luli's curiosity grew. He was at the 32nd place. Then, how powerful were the other 31 warriors? Luli continued to read. When he saw the ones at the top, he was taken aback. The ones at the top were all at the middle stage of the Third Tribulation. They were the chosen ones from the 36 major forces, or the talented ones trained by the hidden families. Every one of them had their own skills and were powerful. Even the weakest among them was at the middle stage of the Third Tribulation. Their sects all had powerful skills and secret skills which they had mastered. Their abilities were formidable. It is said that the chosen ones are born from fighting among the young. None of the chosen ones from the major forces can be underestimated. Luli exclaimed, "How many were there in the young generation of a major force?" There must be over 10,000 of them in total. Since they were young, they had been provided with rich resources and conditions. Every one of them was a talent. It was not hard to imagine how outstanding the chosen ones were. Luli continued to read. When he reached the top 10, he was even more shocked. The young lady at the 8th place might be at the later stage of the Third Tribulation. Luli was even more shocked when he reached the 7th place. It was confirmed that the girl at the 7th place had reached the later stage of the Third Tribulation. That was to say, the top 7 on the list were all at the later stage of the Third Tribulation. Many old warriors could not reach the later stage of the Third Tribulation even after hundreds of thousands of years of cultivation. But the young generation could reach the top. How many heroes and warriors are there in the world? There are hundreds of millions of warriors. Inevitably, there will be some freaks and geniuses. We cannot underestimate them. Luli exclaimed again. He had thought he could go anywhere in the world with the unfettered steps and the dragon wings. Now, it seemed that there were too many strange people in the world. There would always be someone stronger than him. He could die easily if he was careless. Hiss, hiss, Lady Yi gasped and shouted. Luli, look at Yin Kai Wei. He is the second on the list. His comprehensive abilities are at the later stage of the Third Tribulation. Before Luli reached the front, he opened the booklet and flipped it open. After a few glances, his expression became solemn. Yun Kai Wei, the chosen one of the Saint Origin Palace. 7 years ago, he passed the third heaven's tribulation. Then, he tried the Tower of Saint Origin. Now, he had passed the 4th level of the Tower of Saint Origin. His comprehensive abilities were at the later stage of the Third Tribulation. Skills and killing moves, unknown. Secret treasures, unknown. Luli was the 32nd on the list, but Yun Kai Wei wanted to kill the second one. Luli found it funny and felt pressured. At first, he was full of confidence. His physical body had improved a lot, and he had the godly iron. It shouldn't be difficult for him to kill Yun Kai Wei. Now, after he saw the list, he was not so sure. He paused for a moment and turned to the last page. He wanted to see who was the first on the list. However, when he turned to the last page, his hand suddenly trembled. The book fell to the ground. His eyes were filled with shock. Chapter 2039. The name Yinqingxi was familiar to Luli at the same time. He had seen this name in the divinity, but never in person. Yinqingxi's name was on the list of beauties and talents in the divinity. Back then, Luli suspected that Yinqingxi was the blind lady, the one he knew in the 9 universes. Unfortunately, he didn't see her in the divinity. Like Lu Ling, she disappeared without a trace. It was as if the list of beauties and talents were fabricated. Nobody had seen her in person, and she never showed up again. Now that Luli saw the name again, his first thought was that it was a coincidence. How could that blind lady be at the second heaven? She was the number 1 on the list? What is it? Lady Yi and Patriarch Chen noticed Li's expression. They looked at him curiously. Li smiled in embarrassment. Nothing. He picked up the booklet again and read it carefully. However, there was little information about Yinqingxi. Her portrait was blurry. He could only tell that she was a girl. Her force was unknown, her abilities were unknown, and her skills were unknown. The booklet only mentioned one thing. 3 months ago, she went to the St. Origin Hall alone and made it to the 5th level of the Tower of Origin. Yun Kaiwe only made it to the 4th level of the Tower of Origin. Since Yin Qingxi could make it to the 5th level, she must be stronger than Yun Kaiwe. Therefore, it was reasonable for her to be the number 1 on the list. Luli noticed that Lady Yi and Patriarch Shun were still looking at him. He smiled in embarrassment and said, "Is the number 1 on the list at the peak of the 3rd tribulation? She is so young, and yet she can compete with a powerful warrior at the 2nd heaven. She is incredible. There are 7 levels in the Tower of Origin." Patriarch Shun explained, historically, to become the Grand Master of the St. Origin Hall, one must pass the 7th level. The number 1 should not be at the peak of the 3rd tribulation, but she is very close. Impressive, Luli exclaimed. He was excited. If Yin Qingxi was going to the contest, he might have the chance to meet her. He could tell if she was the blind lady or not with just one look. Rustle, rustle, rustle. At that moment, there came some footsteps. 2 people walked in together. Luli, Lady Yi, and Patriarch Shun looked over. They were 2 young men. One of them was a man with a handsome face and an extraordinary aura. However, he seemed to be showing off a little, like a peerless sword that had been unsheathed, attracting people's gazes. This man was young, about the same age as Luli. But clearly, he was a 3 trials heaven immortal. The other one didn't have any special characteristics. She had an ordinary face, a gentle temperament, a smile, and looked harmless. Standing next to the handsome young master, she felt like a green leaf that complemented the flowers. Both of them are experts who have undergone 3 tribulations. I wonder which one of them is the young master of the Axe Demon family? Luli nodded. The handsome young master walked in with his chest puffed out. He looked at Lady Yi at once. A hearty smile appeared on his face as he cupped his hands towards Miss Yi and said, "This must be Miss Yi, right? I am Feng Yima, and I am honored to be fighting alongside Miss Yi on Chaos Island." "Greetings, young Master Feng." Lady Yi's expression was calm. She was neither rude nor enthusiastic. She seemed to be keeping people at a distance. The other young master walked over, cupped his fists, and said, "Nice to meet you, young Master Lu, Lady Yi. I'm Ganlin." Luli cupped his fists with a smile. Lady nodded. Surprisingly, she smiled and said, "Young Master Gon, nice to meet you. When is your grandpa coming?" Luli had thought that Feng Yima was the descendant of the Axe Demon. Little did he know that this seemingly harmless and ordinary Ganlin was the descendant of the Axe Demon. But on second thought, Luli remembered that this was the temperament of the Axe Demon. The Axe Demon was always smiling and didn't look dignified at all. Wasn't that a sign that they were of the same lineage? Ganlin looked outside, scratched his head, and said, "I don't know. Grandpa always comes and goes like a shadow." Feng Yima seemed to be unhappy that Lady Yi and Luli didn't pay attention to him, but were friendly to Ganlin. He snorted and sat down by himself. He glanced over and saw the booklet in Luli's and Lady Yi's hands. He sneered and said, "Lady Yi, young Master Lu, are you looking at the genius list? It's okay, you don't have to. Many real geniuses are not on the list. The list is inaccurate." Lady Yi put on a gentle smile. She turned around and said, "It is a bit inaccurate. Young Master Feng, I don't think you're on the list. I think young Master Feng's fighting capacity is more than enough to make it to the top 10. Top 10 is nothing." Young Master Feng waved his hand and said, "I am confident that I can fight with the top 5. If I cannot make it to the top 5, Feng Yima, will be too ashamed to go back to the Omen Island. I will be disgraced by the Demon King." "Top 5? Luli touched his nose embarrassedly. He picked up his teacup to hide his expression. This Feng Yima was too arrogant. He was a nobody, and he said he wanted to fight with the top 5 on the genius list? That being said, this man was appointed by the Demon King in person. Maybe he did have some powerful fighting capacity. "Young Master Feng, you are so heroic." Lady Yi's smile lit up the entire hall. She looked at Ganlin and asked, "Young Master Gon, How far do you think you can make it? Gan Lin put on a bitter expression. He touched his head and said, I didn't want to go this time, but my grandpa insisted. I will try to make it to the top 30. If I can't, my grandpa will beat me to death. Gan Lin was humble. Lu Li had a good impression of him because of the axe demon. Lady Yi looked at Lu Li with a cunning look and said, Young Master Lu, are you confident that you can make it to the number 1? Poof! Lu Li spat out the tea he just had and choked. He said with a bitter smile, Lady Yi, don't flatter me. I will be thankful if I can make it to the top 100. Gan Lin seemed to know something about Lu Li. He said with a smile, Young Master Lu, you are too humble. You can make it to the top 10. Feng Yima had never looked at Lu Li in the eye because he was only at the second tribulation realm. Now, he looked at Lu Li in the eye and said, Young Master Lu, I have never heard of you. Are you from the He family? Lu Li wanted to say that he had never heard of him, but he didn't want to argue with him. He said with a smile, Young Master Feng, don't listen to them. I am from the lower universe, and I am weak. I am here to broaden my horizons. Oh, Young Master Feng waved his hand and said, You don't have to belittle yourself. You are only at the second tribulation realm, but many young masters at the second heaven are just superficial. They are at high realms, but not powerful. You can make it to the top 100 if you work hard. Puffed. Lady Yi laughed. This young Master Feng was such a snob. He didn't even know where Lu Li was when he was making a scene at the storm area. How could he look down on Lu Li like this? Elder Qin's lips curled into a mocking smile, but he didn't say anything. You are all here. Chapter 2040. The island of chaos was far away. It would take at least 3 to 4 months to get there by teleportation formation. Clearly, there was not enough time. Demon Axe had taken them to the island of chaos through a spatial gate. Patriarch Qin did not go with them. He told Lu Li that they would wait for his triumphant return. Demon Axe took them to a castle where 5 old warriors were waiting. Demon Axe waved his hand and said, Open the spatial gate. Let's go to the island of chaos. It was the first time that Lu Li had seen someone open a spatial gate. When he was at the Palace of Heaven's Music, he saw Lady Qiong and the others doing it. But he had never seen how it was done. The 5 old warriors took out a huge jade disc and began to engrave divine glyphs on the jade butterfly. Lu Li observed with curiosity. The divine glyphs were complicated and he could not understand them at all. Though he could not understand them, he could still remember how to engrave the divine glyphs and then transmit them to Blood Fairy. Blood Fairy had been studying divine glyphs. Perhaps the divine glyphs could help her. After an hour, the jade butterfly glowed. Demon Axe nodded and said, Okay, let's go in. We will be teleported for a long time. Take it easy. Demon Axe led the 4 in. Feng Yima was not as high profile as before. He knew very well how powerful Demon Axe was. Being high profile in front of a powerful warrior would infuriate Demon Axe, and he would be smashed to death. They entered the jade butterfly. Demon Axe poured out divine energy. The jade butterfly glowed. Then, space suddenly collapsed. A black hole appeared and swallowed them in. It was pitch dark. Lu Li felt a strange force enveloped him. He could not move at all. He had to move forward with that force. It was a strange feeling. Lu Li wondered what force was guiding them forward. How was the spatial gate located at the island of chaos? After a long time, maybe a day or 2, Lu Li saw a glimmer of light up ahead. He was led out of the light by that force. He found himself above a huge island. His soul was not strong enough. After teleporting for such a long time, he felt dizzy. He staggered. Lu Li, are you okay? Lady Yi grabbed Lu Li, or else he would have fallen. Lu Li was pale. He forced a smile and said, Thank you, Lady Yi. I am dizzy, but I am okay. His soul is a little weak. Seeing that Lady Yi was grabbing Lu Li, young Master Feng's eyes turned cold. He said coldly, It is a bit hard for you to participate in the contest of geniuses with your current strength. Axe Demon laughed. He glanced over to Lu Li and teased, Punk, you better do well this time. Otherwise, you will be looked down upon. Lu Li forced a smile, cupped his fists, and said, I will try my best. I will not let you down, Lord Axe Demon. Let's go. Axe Demon didn't say anything. He waved his hand and brought the four of them down. There was a small city below. There weren't many experts in the city. There was only an army standing guard. Axe Demon's group of 5 entered the city, and a commander-like martial artist led a group of people to welcome them. He cupped his hands and said, Is this Sir Axe Demon? The great Demon King was famous in the second layer of heaven, so the 10 slaughter generals under her command were naturally paid attention to. It was normal for Axe Demon to be recognized as soon as he arrived. Axe Demon nodded. The leader's expression became more respectful. He cupped his fists. Sir Axe Demon, are you going to rest here or head straight to Primal Chaos City? To the City of Chaos. Axe Demon waved his hand. The leader led the group to the teleportation formation with great respect. There wasn't much to see in the small city. They stepped into the teleportation formation. After a glare, they arrived at a huge city. The city was floating in the air, about the same size as the Asmodean city. It was a lively city with people coming and going. Lily could see nothing but castles and buildings with psychic power. Ha ha ha. Before Luli could finish his exploration, a group of people ran over from the distance. Someone laughed from the distance and said, Lord Axe Demon is here in person. I think the scale of the tournament has increased. Yes. Axe Demon is here in person. I think the Omen Island is going to be the champion. Greetings, Lord Axe Demon. I am a patriarch of the Heroes Alliance. Lord Axe Demon, I am... A group of people came over. Lu Li and the other 3 were pushed to the back. Lady Yi noticed that Lu Li was speechless. She smiled and said, Don't make such a fuss. Every family will send someone to the tournament. Don't be fooled by the number of people in the city. Many are not here for the tournament. They are here to socialize. The fight with the Asmodean Lord established the Omen Island's reputation. It is normal that Lord Axe Demon is popular. Axe Demon greeted them for a while. Then, he waved his hand and said, You 4, go to the yard with Patriarch Lu to rest and prepare for the tournament. In 3 days, the tournament will begin. You can have fun, but don't slack off. Lu Li and the other 3 cupped their fists. The old guys flattered the 4 of them. Many psychic powers were locked on them. After all, they were from the Omen Island. The Omen Island was in the limelight. Lu Li and the others were the center of attention as well. Lu Li noticed that many young masters and young ladies at the plaza were looking at them. But most of the attention was on Lady Yi and young Master Phone. Lady Yi was so pretty and young Master Phone was so elegant. As for young Master Gon and Lu Li, they were just side characters. Young Master Gon's looks were average, and there was nothing special about him. Lu Li was a second tribulation heaven god. So many people ignored him. They followed a patriarch into a yard. Everyone had their own room with brand new things. There were maids to serve them. The treatment was of a high standard. Patriarch Lu left after exchanging some pleasantries. Before Lu Li and the others could sit down, someone handed in a visitation card. Someone came to greet them. Lu Li didn't want to see anyone. Those who came must be young masters and young ladies from small families. He was about to go to his room to rest when young Master Phone picked up the visitation card and asked with a frown, Who wants to see us? I don't want to see young masters and young ladies from small families. Wait, young Master Qin Zhan of the Qin family? Lady Qiong of the Alliance of Immortals? And Lady Mu of the Mu family? They're all on the list. I have nothing to do with them. Why do they want to see me? Qin Zhan? Lu Li stopped. What was Qin Zhan doing? Was he trying to let the world know that Lu Li was the god of massacre? Why did Lu Li come to see him as soon as he arrived at the Island of Chaos? It was easy to arouse suspicion. That being said, no violence was allowed at the Chaos Island. The City of Chaos was full of powerful warriors, and the Axe Demon was here. Lu Li didn't leave. He sat in the hall and waited. Young Master Feng asked someone to invite the guests in. Soon, 3 people came in. As soon as Qin Zhan came in, he looked at Lu Li and put on a bright smile. Lady Qiong and Lady Mu also looked at Lu Li. They ignored everyone else. 3. Young Master Feng stood up and was ready to greet them with a smile. However, he noticed that the three people didn't even look at him. Young Master Qin walked past him and stood in front of Lu Li. I knew you would not die. Ha ha ha. Qin Zhan walked over with a laugh and punched Lu Li. Lu Li touched his nose in embarrassment and said, You want me to die? You're not a good person. Young Master Lu is not a good person. Lady Mu frowned and said, He fooled us. If it were not for the fact that we found some clues, Qin Zhan would have kept it from us. Lady Qiong forced a smile. She bowed and said, Young Master Lu, you are very resourceful. You have deceived everyone. Qin Zhan said, My forefather used the black tortoise fruit, and Yu Qiong found out. They all figured out your identity. I can't do anything. Chapter 2041. As a matter of fact, Lady Qiong and Lady Mu already had their suspicions at the Yuan Yu world. Qin Long had the black tortoise fruit, but he still asked young Master Fu to search him. Demons from hell suddenly appeared and killed young Master Fu during the search. How could there be such a coincidence in the world? After they came out, Lady Qiong and Lady Mu secretly arranged someone to investigate. They found out that a forefather of the Qin family had taken the black tortoise fruit and that demons from hell were near the Omen Island. Connecting all the dots, it was not hard to figure out the truth. Young Master Qin loved Lady Qiong, so he couldn't lie to her. Therefore, he told her the truth, which led to the current situation. Lu Li wasn't afraid that his identity would be exposed. Fairy Tian Yun said that he would be safe at the Chaos Island. She was the sister of the Demon King, and to some extent, she could represent the attitude of the Demon King. However, young Master Qin and the other two had come to him openly, which would attract attention. It would be more difficult to kill Yin Kaiwei. Therefore, Lu Li smiled and said, Guys, let me introduce you. This is Lady E, the #1 young lady of the Omen Island. This is young Master Ganlin, the descendant of the Axe Demon. This is young Master Feng. Lady E stared at Lu Li, bowed, and said, Nice to meet you. Don't listen to Lu Li. I'm just a nobody. I am here to broaden my horizons with young Master Lu. Ganlin smiled and said, That's right. We're here for fun. We just want to see Lu Li's performance. Feng Yima was a bit unhappy. Lady Qiong and Lady Mu were goddesses of their respective forces. Feng Yima was a show-off, so he couldn't keep a low profile. He laughed and said, So, you're Lu Li's friends? That means you're a friend of mine, Feng Yima. You're dragons and phoenixes among men. You're famous on the list. When we meet at the arena in the future, I hope you can be kind to me. Young Master Qin and the other two were smart. They knew that Lu Li didn't want to talk about the past when he introduced them. They also understood the relationship between Lu Li and Lady E from the order of introduction. After the three returned the greetings, young Master Qin and Ganlin began to chat. Lady Qiong and Lady Mu took Lady E to the side to talk, leaving young Master Feng embarrassed. Young Master Feng glanced over and touched his nose in embarrassment. He looked at Lu Li and said, Lu Li, I didn't expect that you could make friends like young Master Qin, Lady Qiong, and Lady Mu. Are you thinking of leaving Heavenly Devil Island and joining other forces? Not at the moment. Lu Li hated this young Master Feng. He didn't want to talk to him anymore. Lu Li replied and asked Qin Zhan, Young Master Qin, do you want to go to the secret realm of primordial chaos this time? Of course. Qin Zhan didn't hide it at all. Who doesn't want to enter the primal chaos secret realm? It only opens once every 100 years. This is an extremely rare opportunity. The primal chaos mystic realm contains the law of primal chaos. If you can comprehend a thing or two inside, you will benefit for the rest of your life. Only the top 30 can enter? Lu Li asked. Seeing Qin Zhan nod his head, he looked at the three and said, Do you all have the confidence to enter the top 30? How many people were on the genius ranking this time? Are the top 10 all here? I'm not confident. Miss Mu continued. Up until now, at least 30 people from the top 50 of the genius rankings have come, and 6 of the top 10 have come. The pressure is quite great. Ha, ha, ha. When there is pressure, There will be challenges, young Master Feng added. If the top 10 on the genius ranking are not here, then the contest of geniuses will be meaningless. You are well informed. I wonder how many of the top 5 on the genius ranking are here? Is Yin Xingxi the number 1 here? If she is, then I can fight her. Young Master Feng's tone was so arrogant that people were disgusted. But he did help Lu Li get the answer he wanted. Lu Li wanted to ask if Yin Xingxi was here. I don't know. Seeing that Lady Qiong and Lady Mu had no intention to respond, young Master Qin explained, Yin Xingxi is very mysterious. I have asked around, and nobody has seen her face. Even when she went to the Tower of Sacred Vitality, she covered her face. This time, I'm not sure if she will come. But Yin Kaiwei, the number 2, and the number 3, 4 and 5 are all here. Brother Feng, you can have a good fight with the 4. If you can kill one of them, you will be famous. There is no need to kill them. Young Master Feng waved his hand casually and said, you could defeat them. Being famous is not a good thing. Sometimes, you can only climb higher by keeping a low profile. I didn't get on the genius list because I don't want to be too high profile. PFF, young lady, he nearly spat out a mouthful of tea. This Feng Yima's skin was really as thick as a city wall. How could he be low-key like this? Qin Zhan thought he was a good-tempered man, but he couldn't stand it anymore. If Feng Yima really was a famous genius, like the top 5 on the genius list, then Qin Zhan would think he was right to be arrogant. An unknown young man who had just come out was spouting nonsense here. It was inevitable that the crowd would feel displeased by this. Feng Yima thought of something and said, Brother Lu, can I talk to you in private? I have something to discuss with you. Sure, come with me. Lu Li stood up and walked to his room with Qin Zhan. Lady Qiong and Lady Mu didn't want to listen to Feng Yima's bragging. They dragged Lady Yi out to visit the manor. I will go back and cultivate as well. Gan Lin didn't say anything. He touched his head and left, leaving Feng Yima alone. Feng Yima was not an idiot. He knew that people didn't want to talk to him. A trace of gloom appeared in his eyes as he said angrily, Today, you are indifferent to me. In the future, you will not be able to reach me. This time, I will make a name for myself by stepping on all the geniuses. Lu Li brought Qin Zhan into the room. As soon as the inhibition formation was turned on, Qin Zhan pouted and said, Where did you find such a weirdo at the Omen Island? You are so arrogant. I don't know. Lu Li touched his nose and said, I have never heard of him before, but the Demon King named him himself. Maybe he has something. Speaking of which, you have come to me in such a high-profile manner. It will attract a lot of attention to me. Ha ha ha. Qin Zhan laughed and said, You think your identity is a secret? The Black Flame Hall and the Fu family have spent a lot of money to bribe many people at the Omen Island. Many people at the Cloud Mountain have been bribed. They have known who you are. You must be careful this time. Even though the Omen Island cannot go to war, you will still be in danger if they take risks out of desperation. Taking risks out of desperation? Lu Li frowned. He thought of a question and asked, Who is responsible for the safety of the Omen Island? If the two forces were to fight, can the powerful warriors of the Omen Island stop them? The 36 forces are responsible for the safety of the Omen Island. Qin Zhan explained, Safety is not a problem. As long as you are not killed instantly, the powerful warriors of the Omen Island can protect you. There are 36 warriors at the later stage or the peak of the third tribulation guarding here. Wait, Lu Li's expressions changed and said, This place is guarded by the 36 forces. The Black Flame Hall has people here as well. If the Black Flame Hall and the Fu family bribed the powerful warriors of the Omen Island, won't I die for sure? They cannot be bribed. Chapter 2042. After chatting with Qin Zhan for a couple of hours, Lu Li learned a lot about the situation. He also understood which geniuses were coming this time. His heart was heavy. Qin Zhan and the rest also felt great pressure. They wanted to enter the top 30 and then enter the Primal Chaos secret realm. However, there were too many monstrous geniuses this time. Qin Zhan told him one thing. The genius ranking was indeed a bit distorted. At the very least, there were some omissions. There were also some disciples from hidden clans that didn't walk outside, so they weren't recorded. The number of geniuses that came this time was twice as many as expected. Qin Zhan and the others were stressed, but Lu Li was even more stressed. He did not want to enter the primal chaos secret realm. All he wanted was to kill Yun Kaiwei. But if he wanted to kill Yun Kaiwei, he would have to fight him first. The advancement system of the genius battle was based on points. If one won consecutively, their points would be stacked. As for the opponent, it was decided by drawing lots. The person with the most points would advance directly. This time, there were tens of thousands of people participating in the battle. At the beginning of the battle, they wouldn't enter the small world of martial arts. If Lu Li encountered Yun Kaiwei at the beginning, he wouldn't dare to use the godly metal either. Therefore, if Lu Li wanted to kill Yun Kaiwei, then he must make it to the top 100 first. Then, he would have to fight against Yun Kaiwei continuously. Only by fighting against him could Lu Li have a chance to kill him. Those that were able to fight their way into the top 100 out of tens of thousands of people were all monstrous level powerhouses. If he still entered the top 100 and was eliminated, then he would completely have no chance to battle Yun Kaiwei. Then, he would violate the agreement with Fairy Tianyun and would not be able to return to the Heavenly Devil Island. After Qin Zhan left, Lu Li didn't wander around. He activated the inhibition formation in his room and went into closed-door cultivation. Even though he only had 2 days, he wanted to try his best to consume more spirit and quintessence to improve his fighting capacity. There were too many monstrous geniuses this time. Who knew if they would encounter a freak? If he couldn't even enter the top 100, then what was there to talk about killing Yun Kaiwei? Lu Li was a man of integrity. Since he had promised Fairy Tianyun, he would definitely go all out and think of every possible way to kill Yun Kaiwei. He activated the restrictions and refined the divine marrow. He did not care about anything that happened outside. At the same time, he worked hard to comprehend the marks of the great Tao and tried to refine the chaotic qi. Unfortunately, the traces of the great Tao were too abstruse. Lu Li always felt he was reading a wordless book. He felt he was looking at flowers in a mist. He could not understand or see through it. The glare of the inhibition formation woke Lu Li up. He stood up and walked out. Outside, Axe Demon Feng Yi and Miss Ma Egon Lin had arrived and were waiting for him. It's about to start. Axe Demon smiled at Lu Li and said, "Kid, are you ready?" "All right." Lu Li cupped his fists. Axe Demon nodded and said, "The 4 of you are representing the Omen Island. Your victory or defeat represents not only your honor, but the dignity of the entire Omen Island. If you cannot even make it to the top 100, you can forget about staying on the Omen Island." "Yes." The 4 of them cupped their hands in response. Axe Demon waved his hand in satisfaction and said, "Let's go to the primal chaos battlefield." The 4 of them followed Axe Demon out of the manor. Once they came out, the 5 of them immediately attracted countless gazes. Heavenly Devil Island had attracted a lot of attention because of the great Demon King. Lu Li and the other 3 were representing the Omen Island. Naturally, they would attract a lot of attention. Someone greeted Axe Demon. Axe Demon didn't say anything. He just nodded and led the 4 of them into a transmission array. A white light flashed, and the 5 of them appeared in a huge, small world. They stood on top of a tall mountain, and there were countless boulders floating in the air around the mountain. There were also numbers on those boulders. Those are the battlefields. Lady Yi saw that Lu Li was confused. She explained, "Later, after we draw lots, we will go up in pairs. You will get 1 point for each win. If you win in a row, you will get double points. Those with 100 points will advance directly. Only 100 of the 10,000 will enter the semifinals. Then, the 100 will continue to compete. The top 30 will enter the Primal Chaos Secret Realm to cultivate for a year." Well, this is simple and crude. Lu Li nodded. He looked around and realized that there were more people here. There were about thousands of young people and powerful warriors from different families that were participating in the fight. "Lord Axe Demon, nice to meet you." Someone came to greet Axe Demon. Soon, a group of people gathered. Some young people greeted Lu Li and Lady Yi as well. Of course, most of them were here for Lady Yi and Feng Yima. Lu Li and Gan Lin were inconspicuous. They didn't like to make friends with these young masters and young ladies. More and more people were teleporting in. Lu Li glanced at the more than a dozen old men on the mountain. All of them were wearing gray robes, and they were sitting at the corners of the mountain. They must be powerful warriors guarding the island of chaos. Look, Lady Dreamclouds is here. She's the 5th on the list. A shout attracted Lu Li and the others' attention. Lu Li looked over and saw a lady in a white dress with a white sword in her hand. She was not the most beautiful, but she had a unique temperament. She was like a sharp sword, and her eyes were intimidating. Lu Li didn't dare to look in her eyes. Girls were beautiful by their gentleness. Few girls had such sharp eyes, which left a deep impression on Lu Li. Her killing intent was strong. Lu Li made a mental note that he must be careful when he ran into her. Tang Ning is here. Another shout came. Lu Li looked over at once. Tang Ning was the 3rd powerful warrior on the list, just below Yun Kaiwei. It was said that he had cultivated a secret skill of his family. His soul attacks were horrifying, and he could kill people without leaving a trace. Lu Li took a look. Tang Ning looked like nothing special. His looks were average, and his temperament was average. There was nothing special about him. We must be more careful when facing him. The more ordinary he was, the more dangerous he was. Otherwise, he wouldn't be the 3rd on the list. This man was good at hiding his strength. Once he made a move, he would be like a storm and crush his enemies to death. More and more people were teleported in. Lu Li glanced over with anticipation. He hoped to see Yin Qingxi. If she was here, no matter how hard she tried to hide, he believed he could tell right away if she was the blind he knew. Yun Kaiwei is here, a young lady said in surprise. Lu Li squinted. This was his main target. He tried to suppress the killing intent in him and looked to the left. Yun Kaiwei was very handsome, his figure tall and sturdy, his outer appearance even a notch better than Feng Yima's. His aura was especially powerful. Standing there alone was like a dragon entrenched there. When he opened and closed his eyes, it was as if there was lightning flickering in his pupils. His qi and blood were strong. Even though he was far away, Lu Li could tell that his qi and blood were as strong as a mountain. Ah, young Master Yun is looking at me. Young Master Yun, you are so handsome. I am drunk. Many young ladies from small families were smitten. Even the men had to admit that Yun Kaiwei did have what it took to make women fall for him. They all felt ashamed of themselves. Yun Shueishui has a good son. Chapter 2043. Unparalleled. This was Lu Li's first impression of Yun Kaiwei. He had seen this kind of aura in many people, but they were all overlords. Few young people could have this kind of aura. Young, handsome, masculine, domineering, with a strong background, sharp but calm, and powerful aura. These were the qualities that could attract girls. Many young masters only had a few of these qualities, but they could hook up with many young ladies. Yun Kaiwei had all of them, which was why so many girls were smitten with him. The one who came with Yun Kaiwei was an old man with a crooked back. He did not have a strong qi and energy like an old slave. But Lu Li believed that the Saint Origin Palace would send someone at the peak of the 3rd tribulation to protect Yun Kaiwei. He was the future hope of the Saint Origin Palace. Naturally, other forces would not plot against him. Yun Kaiwei didn't talk to others. He just stood on the side indifferently. When someone greeted him, he would only nod. He didn't look arrogant. Instead, it was natural. Lu Li squinted. He felt pressured by this opponent. It was hard to say if he could defeat him, let alone kill him. This man was the future hope of the Saint Origin Palace. He must have some secret treasures. It would be difficult to kill him. Where is Yin Qingxi? Why isn't she here? Lu Li was disappointed. More than 10,000 people had come to the peak, but they didn't see Yin Qingxi. Maybe she wouldn't show up in this contest. The contest will begin in the time for 3 incense sticks to burn. Lady, he whispered to Lu Li. Lu Li pursed his lips. If Yin Qingxi didn't show up after the time for 3 incense sticks to burn, she might not come. Lu Li suddenly felt a chill. He looked to the right at once, and happened to see a pair of eyes staring at him like a viper. Demon Axe seemed to have noticed it as well. He looked over and said, Luli, that is the new godson of God of the Hall of Black Flame. You have killed the last one, and a new one has been appointed. Be careful when you run into him. Luli nodded. He looked at the two old men next to that man. They must be patriarchs of the Hall of Black Flame. Luli himself was not friendly. Where is the Fu family? Luli sent a message to Demon Axe. Demon Axe tilted his head and said, Over there, in the corner. Luli looked over and saw two old men and a young lady in the corner. The three of them saw Luli looking over, and their eyes were filled with killing intent. My identity has been exposed. Luli forced a smile. He didn't think too much. The Axe Demon was still at the Primal Chaos Island, and there were so many powerful warriors from different families. Who would dare to do anything to him? If the Black Flame Hall and the Fu clan tried to kill him, then they would have to face the wrath of the great Demon King. Time passed by bit. It was about to begin. More and more people came in. Some of them were said to be talented disciples of hidden families, which caused a lot of discussion. Luli paid attention to them secretly. But Yin Qingxi, the #1 genius on the genius list, was nowhere to be seen. Just as the battle was about to begin, a white figure suddenly teleported in. There was only one person, a woman. Her face was covered with a light veil, and she wore a green tube skirt. It was impossible to see her facial features clearly, and her aura was not very strong. After arriving, she stood there quietly. Her slender figure attracted a lot of attention. Luli threw her a look, but didn't pay too much attention. There were many masked women here as well. Luli could sense that this woman was not very strong. She seemed to be at the third tribulation realm. But at that moment, Yun Kaiwe suddenly turned around and looked at the green-dressed lady, which caught Luli's attention. Not only Luli, but many others also looked over. Since Yun Kaiwe came in, he never looked at anyone. Why did he look at this lady? Can it be? Luli's eyes glowed. Yin Qingxi once went to the Tower of Sacred Vitality and reached the 5th level. Yun Kaiwe was paying so much attention to her. Could this green-dressed lady be Yin Qingxi? Many people had the same idea, but this lady was so weak that she didn't look like a powerful warrior. Luli took a closer look. She didn't look like the blind he knew, either. Her figure and temperament were different. All right. A hoarse voice drew everyone's attention. A white-haired old man flew up to the sky and said, The teleportation channel to the martial arts field is closed. The contest of geniuses has officially begun. I think you all know the rules. You will draw lots, and the winner will get points. Consecutive winners will get double points. Those with 100 points will directly advance to the semifinals. Life and death are not allowed in the contest. But if one side admits defeat, the other side cannot kill the other or they will be disqualified. Now we will draw lots. Go ahead and compete. We will have people to accumulate the points. Buzzing, the old man gathered divine energy and suddenly released many divine energy bubbles. Tens of thousands of divine energy bubbles floated in the air. Immediately, someone reached out to the divine energy bubbles. The divine power bubbles burst and condensed into different numbers. Whoosh, whoosh. Many people immediately flew toward the floating platform with the same number. Seeing that Luli didn't move, Lady Yi said, Luli, go and draw lots. The sooner you can get 100 points, the sooner you can enter the semifinals. Otherwise, when there are 100 people, your 100 points will be useless. There's no hurry. Luli smiled. He noticed that Yun Kai, Yu Ming Yun, and Tang Ning didn't move. Those with real abilities would not panic because they could keep winning and soon they would get 100 points. I will go now. Feng Yima's body shot out, and he crushed a god power bubble. He found his own arena, and when he saw that there was someone on the arena, he immediately rushed up. A bright light flashed as the divine inscriptions automatically activated. Feng Yima made his move the moment he stepped in. His silhouette was like a phantom, flickering as he neared his opponent. After which, he clawed at his opponent's back, causing a bloody hole to appear on his opponent's back. Let's go. Gonlin glanced over to Axe Demon and forced a smile. He flew over and grabbed a divine energy bubble. Luli and Lady E looked at each other. They flew up as well, and each grabbed a divine energy bubble. 68. The divine energy bubble cracked, and 3 numbers appeared. Luli took a look and saw a platform floating in the air. He was relieved to see that there was someone there, a warrior who had just passed the second tribulation. Whoosh! Luli rushed over. That man was delighted to see that Luli was only at the second tribulation realm. He thought he had run into a pushover. Admit defeat. Swords and sabers have no eyes. I am afraid that I will accidentally kill you, that man said coldly. Luli didn't want to waste time. He dashed over, took a blow from the man, and punched the man half to death. I admit defeat. That man was scared to see Luli walking over. He shouted. The runes on the floating platform glowed, and that man was teleported away. Whoosh! Chapter 2044. It was depressing to run into an acquaintance in a fight like this. Luli had to make it to the top 100, or else he would not be able to complete his task. Lady Mu wanted to make it to the next rank as well. She wanted to enter the secret realm of primordial chaos. Luli was struggling to decide whether to fight or give way. Lady Mu could tell that Luli was struggling. She said to him, Luli, a fight is a fight. Don't worry about it. We will fight based on our own abilities. If you can defeat me, I will not blame you. If I can defeat you, I will not harm your life. Come on. Lady Mu's meaning was clear. They would fight with all they had. As long as they didn't harm each other's lives, they should not hold grudges against each other. Luli was relieved to hear that. He nodded and said, Lady Mu, I am sorry to have offended you. Swish. Young Lady Mu took out a rattan. This rattan was clearly not an ordinary rattan. It was covered in dense divine runes. She shouted, This artifact of mine is a high-grade artifact. Be careful. Swish. Lady Mu shook the rattan, which glowed. There was a strange chi and energy coming from the rattan, which was astonishing. As the vines trembled, the space around them trembled, and the momentum was shocking. Hoi! Seeing that Luli had no intention to attack, Lady Mu knew that he wanted her to make the first move. She didn't hesitate. She leaped up and swung the rattan at Luli. Swish! The rattan flew over like a poisonous dragon. It split up in midair and turned into dozens smaller rattans. They locked on a Luli and began to attack him. This is a rare artifact. Impressive. Luli nodded to himself. A princess of a big family was rich. Anything she took out was a secret treasure. He remembered that Lady Mu had an ancient chariot in the Palace of Immortals. How could a young lady have 2 secret treasures? Luli used the happy steps, ready to dodge. However, at that moment, he suddenly noticed that the stone platform under his feet was moving. Tree roots shot out and entangled his legs. What fundamental principle? Luli suddenly looked to Lady Mu and saw the green glow in her hand. Luli was embarrassed. Lady Mu looked delicate, but he didn't expect her to be so powerful. I was careless. Luli forced a smile. He rarely underestimated his enemies because Lady Mu was his friend and she was a delicate beauty. He didn't fight her often. He had forgotten that Miss Mu was the Mu clan's goddess and was on the genius ranking. Her status as the Mu clan's goddess might not mean anything, but the genius ranking would not be randomly ranked. The rattan flew down. Instead of attacking Luli, it entangled him. Luli was wrapped up by the rattan and was wrapped up like a meat dumpling. Luli, show me your real strength or you will lose. Lady Mu's voice came through. Luli was restrained, but he didn't panic. He shouted, mobilized the energy in his 720 acupoints and shouted, Okay, Lady Mu, be careful. Bang! Energy surged out from his acupuncture points, and a powerful force filled Luli's body. Luli stomped hard on the ground, and the roots under his feet exploded. He waved his hands forcefully, and the vines binding his hand were actually shaken off. He punched out with both fists, sending the vines flying one after another. His body also shot forward, approaching Miss Mu at a terrifying speed. Impressive. Lady Mu nodded to herself. Luli's physical body was so strong that he could defeat average warriors of the 3 tribulation trials with his physical strength alone. He didn't even use any skills or secret treasures. As a matter of fact, Lady Mu already knew that she was no match for Luli. After all, Luli could kill young Master Yin and young Master Fu, which in itself spoke volumes. Not to mention that Luli could survive the pursuit of the 2 forces and Yin Fengming. Lady Mu was confident in her abilities, but she was not arrogant enough to compare herself with Luli. That being said, since she was fighting against Luli, she didn't want him to underestimate her. Therefore, when Lady Mu saw Luli coming, she didn't dodge. Instead, she let out a green glow. She took out a wand, waved it, and said, "Luli, taste my starlight of wood." The green glow condensed into green spots the size of a fist and rushed toward Luli. This was a method of attack that Lady Mu was very satisfied with. The starlight was endless and would explode as soon as it touched the enemy. The enemy would be too tired to deal with it and would be killed in the end. Boom, boom, boom. One starlight after another landed on Luli. The starlight was so dense that Luli could not dodge at all. That being said, the starlight was weak. It only managed to make Luli stagger back for a few steps. It couldn't break his defense. Boom, boom, boom. That being said, Lady Mu's body glowed in green. The green light condensed into starlight and smashed at Luli. Luli was forced to step back, unable to get close to Lady Mu. This girl is not bad. She can wear down an average heaven tribulation realm warrior to death. Luli nodded. He turned around and dodged the starlight. He took out his 7-star saber and hacked at Lady Mu. He could not get close to Lady Mu if he had to rely on his physical strength alone. He could not keep this up. The sooner he could accumulate 100 points, the sooner he could advance to the next stage. If there were 100 people, it would be pointless even if he could accumulate 10,000 points. He could not hide his identity anymore. Both the Fu family and the Hall of Black Flame knew who he was. There was no need for him to hide anymore. He took out his 7-star saber and released the Slayer's Ghost Cut. Swish! A ray of sword light whooshed across the sky. It made several turns in the air and hacked at Lady Mu. The ray of sword light was dazzling. What was more, the unique mode of attack attracted many people's attention. Many people at the foot of the mountain looked over. Luli became the center of attention. The mountain was in an uproar as well. Luli's attack pattern was quickly confirmed by others, and the identity of Luli as the Grim Reaper was immediately spread. Luli had caused quite a stir at the second heaven. After all, he had killed the divine princes of the Hall of Black Flame and the Fu family, and he had the black tortoise fruit. He offered the black tortoise fruit to buy the heads of the Fu family patriarch and a master of the Hall of Black Flame. How could people here not know such a big deal? The Hell Killer? I didn't expect that the Hell Killer is here. He can take part in the contest of geniuses. He can turn the Sea of Storm upside down and humiliate the Hall of Black Flame and the Fu family. How can he be so young? TSK, this contest of geniuses is going to be interesting. Not only are the hidden geniuses here, but the Hell Killer is here as well. Ha ha, ha. The goddess of the Mu family is going to be defeated. The Hell Killer has killed 2 divine princes. He should be able to defeat the goddess of the Mu family easily. Both the Fu family and the Hall of Black Flame are here. Will they risk their lives knowing that the Hell Killer is here? The mountain was bustling with discussion. Many people were excited. Several patriarchs of the Fu family and the Hall of Black Flame pulled long faces. They wished they could kill Luli in person. Never mind, never mind. Luli, I admit defeat. When Luli released the Slayer's Ghost Cut, Lady Mu realized that her speed and body were slowed down. She sighed and said, Chapter 2045. Don't be in such a hurry to admit defeat. Luli felt the pressure as well. He had thought that the Slayer's Ghost Cut would only attract attention. Little did he expect that the outside would be in an uproar. He had underestimated the disturbance he caused at the Sea of Storms. He did not expect that he would become the center of attention. Even the warriors on the list of warriors who were fighting were paying attention. Luli thought of something and said, Lady Mu, buy me some time. I will build a plaza of divine runes down there, which will help me in the upcoming fights. Lady Mu swung her wand angrily. She generated rays of starlight to attack Lu Li. Why should I help you? We don't know each other. She replied angrily. All right, my first miss. Lu Li begged for mercy. I owe you one. Next time, I will try my best to help you. That's more like it. Lady Mu waved her wand with satisfaction. Tell me, how do you want me to help you? Tie me up with vines. Lu Li sent a message. Once again, Lady Mu bound Lu Li with her vines. This time, Lu Li did not break free. Instead, he said to Blood Fairy, build a dojo of apotheosis down there. Lu Li did not want to expose too many of his trump cards. If he could build a plaza of apotheosis on the floating platform, he would have an easier time in the upcoming fights. He could easily make it to the top 100. Blood Fairy snuck out from Lu Li's body and snuck under the platform. After a while, she said, Master, there are runes on the platform. I can make some slight changes, and we can build a plaza of apotheosis. Give me the time for one incense stick to burn. Okay. Lu Li was overjoyed. Try not to change the runes on the platform. I am fighting in arena. People will say that I am breaking the rules. Okay. Blood Fairy began to build, while Lu Li began to twist. In this way, people would think that he was trying to break the vines, which would not arouse suspicion. Wood Fairy, Lady Mu pretended to attack as well. She released more energy of wood that pierced into the vines in the form of green blurs. However, those attacks were weak and could not penetrate Lu Li's defense. What? Didn't the Hellish Slayer break the vines in an instant? Why are you trapped again? The Hell Slaughter God doesn't seem to be anything special. The Mu clan's goddess genius ranking is ranked in the 60s, yet she can actually trap him? Could it be that he's not the Grim Reaper from Hell? Otherwise, how could he be so weak? He seems to be someone from the Heavenly Devil Island. Rumor has it that the Hell-killing god entered the Heavenly Devil Island. Moreover, that killer move of his is unique. No one can imitate it. Many people outside were paying attention to Lu Li. Seeing that Lu Li was trapped by Lady Mu so easily, and he hadn't broken free after the time for half an incense stick to burn, it was inevitable that people would have doubts. There were runes on the platforms in the air. When warriors went in, the shield would be activated. People on the outside could not use psychic power to check. Therefore, not even the Axe Demon knew what Lu Li was doing. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, Blood Fairy said, Master, everything is ready. Should we activate it? No need. Wait for my orders. Lu Li said and then said to Lady Mu, Okay, Lady Mu, it's done. Bang! Lu Li shook his arm to knock away the vines. He flew over, pretending to punch at Lady Mu's head. Lady Mu glared at Lu Li, but did not step back. Lu Li's fist stopped in front of Lady Mu's face. Lady Mu's hair was blown up. She shouted in a deep voice, I give up. What? Another uproar came from outside. Just a moment ago, Lu Li was trapped, and now he dashed out. Lady Mu felt her reaction was too slow. She didn't try to dodge and gave up so easily. Buzzing. The runes glowed and sent Lady Mu out. Lu Li stood where he was and looked at the mountain. Many people were pointing at him, and those on the list would look at him from time to time. I must win in a row. I must get 100 points as soon as possible and enter the semi-finals. Lu Li thought to himself. He took out the mountain and began to release worms of the void. He had just released hundreds of worms of the void when a warrior flew up from the mountain. Here came the next challenger. Peak of the second tribulation. Lu Li sensed and was relieved. If he could win in a row, he could get 2 points. If he could fight against dozens of warriors of the second tribulation, he could enter the semi-finals right away. That warrior looked awful. He complained about his bad luck. Lu Li had just defeated a warrior of the third tribulation, a warrior on the list. Lu Li didn't even have to use the Apotheosis Dojo to deal with someone at the peak of the second tribulation. He just dashed over. That warrior took out his weapon and was about to attack. However, Lu Li was so fast that the warrior didn't even have time to react. He was smashed away by Lu Li. Boom! That warrior was smashed into the shield. Blood oozed out from his mouth. He crawled up, cupped his fist to Lu Li, and said, Thank you for showing mercy. I admit defeat. Soon, that warrior was teleported out. Luli took a look and realized that someone must be controlling the runes. It must be the more than a dozen patriarchs that were guarding here. This warrior was not teleported out on his own. After a while, another warrior came. This time, he was at the initial stage of the second tribulation. He was nervous, and he felt sweat on his forehead. When he came up, he didn't even prepare for a fight. He just stared at Luli nervously. Luli squinted his eyes and looked at him. After a while, Luli realized that he was not going to make a move. Luli quickly walked over without using the happy steps. I admit defeat. I admit defeat. That warrior's legs trembled in fear. Then, he stepped back and shouted in terror. Luli stopped and was speechless. Was he that scary? He didn't kill or maim his opponent just now. That warrior was teleported out. Luli looked around at the platforms in the air. After a while, he felt relieved. Many powerful warriors on the list had occupied a stone platform in the air, and they were all winning. Luli wouldn't fight against them for now. Yun, Kaiwei, Tang Ning, and Meng Yun were not far away from him. They were also winning. Qin Zhan had won 4 in a row on another stone platform. Lady Qiong was also winning. Feng Yima is good. Luli saw that Feng Yima had been standing on the stone platform. Feng Yima was on the stone platform before Luli did. He must have fought several times already. Lady Yi and Gonlin were also on the stone platforms. Clearly, they were winning. There were more than 10,000 warriors in this tournament. Most of them were warriors of the second tribulation. It was reasonable for warriors of the third tribulation to win in a row, unless they were unlucky enough to run into a powerful warrior of the third tribulation. Just like when Luli fought against Lady Mu. If Luli was not as powerful as Lady Mu, then he wouldn't be able to win in a row. He would have to challenge again, and it would be slower for him to accumulate points. This was a reasonable strategy. It was a test of both fighting abilities and luck. Sometimes, luck was important as well. Luck was also a part of one's power. Whoosh! Clearly, Luli's luck was not very good. A figure flew up as fast as a rainbow. A girl with elegant and cold temperament landed in front of Luli, a talented disciple of a hidden family. Luli's expressions grew solemn. Qin Zhan told him about this girl. She was definitely more powerful than Qin Zhan. She wasn't on the list, but she should be as powerful as the top 20 on the list. Chapter 2046. There were some reclusive clans in the second heaven. These clans didn't even occupy the heavenly island. Instead, they occupied some secluded grotto heavens, spiritual mountains, and secret realms that were unknown to the outside world. For example, the Qin clan only occupied a big island, but the spiritual chi of heaven and earth on this big island was similar to that of the heavenly island, and there were many grotto heavens and blessed lands on it. The Qin clan had occupied this island for hundreds of thousands of years. As long as this island was not seized by other clans, the Qin clan would be able to prosper for generations to come. The girl was a disciple of a hidden family. Even Luli didn't know her name. Because this person had never appeared before, the outside world didn't have any information about her. She only appeared in this genius battle. So Qin Zhan didn't have much information about her. He only knew that she was very powerful. The lady was tall and slim, beautiful and cold. She looked at Luli as if he were a beast of primordial chaos, which made Luli uncomfortable. Blood Fairy, open the God's Investiture Dojo. Luli could not afford to be careless. His feet glowed as he stamped on the ground. Blood Fairy cooperated and went into the ground from under Luli's feet. The runes on the ground trembled as an invisible force spread across the entire floating platform. The woman's senses were very sharp, and she immediately sensed that something was wrong. A long sword appeared in her hand, and she kicked off the ground with one leg. As soon as her feet moved, her expression changed. She found that she could not move her divine power at all. Luli kicked against the ground and dashed toward the lady like a mad dragon. His divine energy was sealed as well, so he could not use the footwork of pleasure. However, This floating stone platform was only so big, so he was able to close the distance between them in an instant. Xiao, the woman reacted quickly and quickly retreated. Her eyes turned and her lips parted slightly as she asked, "You used a secret technique to seal space and divine power?" "Yes." Lu Li didn't try to hide it. He nodded and said, "Young lady, just admit defeat. You are no match for me when you cannot use divine energy." "Really?" The woman sneered and said, "Do you think that only your body is powerful? Do you think you can be invincible just by relying on your physical body?" The lady circled around and suddenly rushed towards Lu Li. She put away her sword and took out a dagger. The dagger was completely black and covered in divine patterns. It was obvious that it wasn't an ordinary item. "Huh!" she shouted and waved the dagger in her hand. The dagger moved in a blur and slid toward Lu Li's neck. This dagger must be incomparably sharp. Even if it could not be infused with divine power, it could still cut through iron like mud. Otherwise, this young lady would not be so confident. Lu Li had activated the trace of the Tao. His senses were sharp. He leaned to one side and threw a punch from his left, trying to smash the lady away. "You fell for it." The lady kicked on the ground and flew up. Her boots glowed, and 2 black arrows flew out from her boots. They were aimed at Lu Li's crotch. Lu Li had seen men and women fight with their chests, but this was the first time he had seen a woman use such a dirty move, not to mention that she was a young lady of a big family. His physical body was indeed very strong, but he did not know how strong the defense of his crotch was, so he did not dare to take it head-on. He could only forcefully twist his body and use his thighs to take the 2 arrows head-on. Bang, bang. 2 sounds of metal colliding came out. Lu Li felt the skin on his thighs was broken, but he was not badly hurt. Even so, he was shocked. His physical body was so strong, but his defense was cracked so easily. "Die!" The young lady's cold voice came out. With a shrill noise, Lu Li felt a gust of wind behind his ears. The young lady's dagger landed on the back of Lu Li's head. Bang! With another muffled sound, Lu Li felt a pain on the back of his head. The dagger had broken through his defense and went a little bit. Even though the dagger could not go in completely, Lu Li was angered. He didn't care about the dagger at all. He swung his fist and punched back. Boom! The young lady was smashed away like a kite with a broken string. Lu Li's strength was too much for her. Lu Li turned around and touched the back of his head. He didn't look at the young lady. Instead, he looked at his thighs. There was black blood oozing out from the wound. The sleeve darts are poisoned. Lu Li's expressions grew colder. This young lady was not only obscene, but also insidious. The arrow shot out from her boots was poisoned. Lu Li took out a healing pellet and felt it. He was relieved. The poison could corrode divine energy. Since he could not use divine energy now, the poison wouldn't be of much use to him. "You are despicable and obscene." The young lady climbed up from the ground. She took out a piece of gauze to cover her waist and butt. Her pretty face was filled with shame and anger. Lu Li's punch landed on her buttocks. Her dress was a piece of treasure, but it was torn by Lu Li. Her buttocks were covered in blood, revealing patches of white and red flesh. "I am obscene?" Lu Li was a bit surprised. Then he asked back, "Lady, where did you shoot the sleeve dart at? Don't you know? You are a man, and I am a woman." The young lady's eyes were spitting fire. She snorted and said, "Also, didn't you dodge it? Your logic is invincible." Lu Li shrugged and said, "Only women are allowed to use obscene moves, and men are not allowed to fight back. You did it on purpose, and I didn't do it on purpose. I dodged because I reacted quickly. Who are you to blame for not reacting quickly? Also, since you're on the battlefield, don't talk about men and women. If there are real enemies, do you think they will spare you just because you are a woman? If you are worried about this and that, you might as well stay at home and nurse your children." The woman was so angry that her delicate body trembled. She swallowed a healing pill, gritted her teeth, and rushed forward again. Her eyes were exceptionally cold as she shouted, "I want you dead. No one has ever humiliated me like this since I was young." Her mentality, Lu Li shrugged his shoulders. He had underestimated this young lady. She was so easily enraged. When a young lady of a hidden family was on the battlefield, she could be killed easily. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The young lady flew up and shot out 4 arrows from her boots and sleeves at the same time. The angles of the arrows were vicious. 2 of them were aimed at Lu Li's eyes, and the other 2 were aimed at his crotch. While Lu Li was dodging, she approached him quickly. She swung her dagger and slashed at Lu Li's neck. Lu Li moved slightly to avoid the vital parts. The dagger pierced into his chest. He did not hesitate to punch at the young lady's chest. Boom, boom, both of them were blasted away, but the robe in front of the woman's chest had been blasted open, and fresh blood was dripping down. Of the 2 prideful peaks, only one was left now. The other had been razed to the ground. Chapter 2047. Lu Li's fight had attracted many people's attention. For one, it was Lu Li's reputation. For another, it was a young lady from a hidden family. This young lady had never shown up in public before. This was her first time, and she was representing the hidden family, the Chow family. It had been hundreds of years since the Chow family sent out a representative. Naturally, this young lady was eye-catching, but the outcome of the fight was confusing. That being said, it was an eye-opener. A young lady from the hidden family, the Chow family, did not use any powerful skills. Instead, she resorted to concealed weapons. She dashed to Lu Li like a shrew and had a hand-to-hand fight. More importantly, Lu Li injured her buttocks and flattened her breasts. She was a young lady from a hidden family. Usually, warriors from small families could only catch a glimpse of her from a distance. But now, they could witness such a busted scene. Many vulgar men were delighted. They wished Lu Li would blow up Lady Chow's clothes, make her kneel on the ground naked, and let Lu Li whip her. Of course, more people were confused. Why didn't Lady Chow use any skills or skills? She must have treasures. Why didn't she use them? Did she want to fight Lu Li? Didn't she know how strong Lu Li was? Boom! Lady Chow was smashed away again. This time, Lu Li was not as obscene. He landed on her abdomen. She spat out blood and fell to the ground. Lady Chow crawled up again. Her hair was disheveled. She looked no different from a crazy woman. She dashed toward Lu Li while yelling. Lu Li was speechless. This was not the demeanor of a disciple from a noble family. Master! Right at that moment, Blood Fairy suddenly said, "There is a shadow under the platform. It has triggered the runes of the Apotheosis Dojo. I can feel it." Shadow? Lu Li was taken aback. The shadow must be something like lingering souls and spirits. They would not appear for no reason. There could only be one explanation. The shadow was released by this crazy lady. She's putting on a show. Lu Li's hair stood on end. This young lady's acting was so convincing that he believed her. He thought the young lady had lost her mind. Lu Li let down his guard against her. But who would have thought that this young mistress would release a killing move in secret? This woman was way too scheming. She was probably out to take his life. "Miss, stop attacking and admit defeat. Otherwise, you will be responsible for your own life and death," Lu Li shouted. His voice spread to the outside world. Even people on the mountains could hear it. Miss Chow roared, "Admit defeat? If I don't kill you, I won't rest." Lady Chow rushed towards Lu Li in a frenzy. She kept shooting out arrows from her sleeve and waving her dagger. Once again, she got close to Lu Li. It seemed that she had lost her mind. A tiger's roar suddenly came from under the stone platform. Then a black shadow flew out from under Lu Li's feet. If it were not for Blood Fairy's reminder, Lu Li would have smashed Lady Chow away, just like before, and the shadow would have the chance to catch up. But at this moment, he did not attack Miss Chow. Instead, his body turned into a blur and rushed to the left. The black shadow underground also missed. Seeing that Lu Li had left, Lady Chow was surprised. She didn't look like a crazy person at all. She couldn't seem to understand what had gone wrong. The black shadow that dashed out was indeed a remnant soul, like that of a powerful beast. A surge of ferocious energy spread out. Even Lu Li felt suffocated. Charge! Since sneak attacks did not work, he had to resort to force. That remnant soul entered Lady Chow's body, and she dashed toward Luli. Luli sneered. At his command, hundreds of worms of the void dashed out from underground and swarmed into Lady Chow's body. He himself stepped back and circled around the stone platform. What? Lady Chow was taken aback. How could she not notice that the worms of the void had entered her body? She stopped, took out a robe to cover herself up, and took 2 healing pellets. Then, she said to Luli, "Tell your worms to leave." "I admit defeat." Luli was not convinced. He replied, "Give up first. When you do, I will let the worms leave your body." Luli would not believe a word of Lady Chow's, unless he admitted defeat in public and quit. Disciples of hidden families were different from mortals. Her acting skills were superb. She did not mind that a young lady's chest was flattened. She kept putting on an act, trying to kill Luli in one move. Luckily, Blood Fairy had warned him. Otherwise, Luli would not know what would happen if he was attacked by that remnant soul. The remnant soul was horrifying. This young lady knew how to hold back. She did not let it out just to deal a fatal blow to Luli. Lady Chow's expressions changed. She was still hesitating. A glint of determination rose in her eyes. She did not surrender. Instead, she took out a pellet and swallowed it. After a moment, Lady Chow's energy was growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. She said coldly, "Since you do not know what is good for you, then I will make you disappear from this world." Lady Chow's eyes were as cold as a beast's. She did not look like a delicate young lady at all, but a war machine. Luli had thought this young lady of a hidden family was nothing special. Now, he realized that he had underestimated her. When Lady Chow was fighting, she did not treat herself as a woman. She had transformed into a war machine. Once the fight started, she would not think about how to defeat her opponent, but how to kill her opponent. Whoosh! Lady Chow dashed toward Luli in a frenzy. She was several times faster than Luli. Clearly, she had taken some kind of pellet to strengthen her body for a short period of time. Naturally, she would be faster as well. Dragon wings out. Luli's robe was torn. For the first time, he used his bloodline skill. As soon as his wings came out, his speed was multiplied. He ordered the worms of the void to devour Lady Chow's body. Lady Chow, who was running, stopped. She seemed to be in pain. She was trembling. Luli checked the worms of the void. He said with disdain, "Young lady, don't put on an act. Your body is strong now. Not even my worms can hurt you. You're good at acting. Unfortunately, I can see everything. I'm just curious. How long can your pellet last? Will you still be able to resist my insects when the medicine is exhausted?" Luli could not help but exclaim that Lady Chow was still putting on an act at this moment. Luli could not help but exclaim that Lady Chow was still putting on an act at this moment. If Luli were an average warrior, he would have died in the hands of Lady Chow. Lady Chow's eyes were filled with anger. She yelled, "Aren't you the famous god of massacre from hell? Do you only know how to run? If you're a man, fight me. Or, if you release your divine energy, I can kill you in one move. Don't play these tricks. They are meaningless." Luli dashed away to keep a distance between them. The floating stone platform had a radius of 2 miles. As long as Luli was careful, Lady Chow would not be able to get close. He said coldly, "Miss, I've experienced tens of thousands of battles in my life, and I've seen all kinds of conspiracies. Your provocation is too low level. Stop insulting each other's intelligence. You can't beat me." "All right, I admit defeat." This time, Lady Chow shouted with determination. Her shout in public meant that she had lost, and she would be teleported out soon. Chapter 2048. Miss Chow had been defeated in a rather baffling manner. Many people could not understand what had happened. Later on, a remnant soul of a beast came out. Luli kept running, and then some insects came out. Lady Chow and Luli exchanged a few words, and then she admitted defeat. When she was teleported out, she went to the more than a dozen powerful warriors guarding here and asked to be teleported out of the small world. In other words, she was out of the contest. Anyways, Lady Chow had lost, and Luli had won. This was a fact that could not be changed. Even though the victory was baffling and some low-level warriors still did not understand, a victory was a victory. But a victory was a victory. A disciple of a hidden family, a warrior of the third tribulation, was defeated by Lu Li. Many people began to put up their guard against Lu Li. Some prayed that they would not have to face Lu Li. Many young ladies were disgusted by Lu Li. After all, Lady Chow was a girl. He had destroyed a mountain. From a female's point of view, it was natural for them to be disgusted. Lu Li took some healing pellets. The toxins in him faded away. The toxins could corrode divine energy. Lu Li did not even use divine energy. The toxins did not have an immediate effect. I must be careful of those hidden families. They will only send out one disciple for hundreds of years. They will not send out a good-for-nothing to disgrace themselves. Lu Li warned himself. He looked around and noticed that those he was paying attention to were still winning. It seemed that they would reach the top 100 soon. Whoosh, soon a new opponent came. Lu Li took a look and breathed in relief. Second Tribulation warriors were less stressful for him. He told Blood Fairy to deactivate the Apotheosis Dojo. He did not use the Apotheosis Dojo to deal with average warriors. This was his unique skill, and he did not want everyone to know about it. That Second Tribulation warrior looked as if he had just lost his father. That being said, he was not afraid. He did not admit defeat right away. He used several moves. Making sure that he could not break Lu Li's defense, he cupped his fists and left. Go on. Points were easier to earn. Besides, he did not have to fight against Yun Kaiwei, Tong Ning, and Ming Yin. Some top 10 on the list were in the arena. If he were to leave the arena now, it would be troublesome if he had to fight against them, which would affect his progress. One opponent after another flew up. Lu Li's next 7 fights went smoothly. All of them were Second Tribulation warriors. Apart from one at the peak of the Second Tribulation who had a secret artifact that caused Lu Li some trouble, the others were defeated by Lu Li easily. Lady Yi and Gan Lin had been winning. What surprised Lu Li was, Feng Yima was winning as well. He must have won more than a dozen. The Asmodean Lord had chosen him in person. This man had some foundation. His abilities should be around the middle stage of the Third Tribulation. Similarly, Yun Kaiwei, Tong Ning, and the others never came down from the arena. Lu Li secretly paid attention to Yun Kaiwei, trying to see his special moves and real abilities. What a pity his reputation was too great and his aura was too strong. Many people who went up immediately surrendered when they saw that it was him. He estimated that he had won more than 30 battles in a row, which was twice as many as Lu Li. The second ranker on the genius ranking had an unparalleled aura. He stood there like a peerless, ferocious beast. Ordinary people would tremble in fear if they went up against him. How could they still have the mood to fight? Therefore, Lu Li had observed him for many times, but he didn't see him release any strange moves. He would just take out a spear and stab at it, and his opponent would admit defeat. Lu Li looked around. Suddenly, he saw that lady. She was the one with a veil over her face. Yun Kaiwei was looking at her since the beginning of the battle on the genius horse. Lu Li suspected that she might be Yin Qingxi, the number 1 on the genius ranking. Since Yun Kaiwei didn't look at anyone but this lady, Lu Li paid special attention to her. This was the first time this lady went up against a warrior at the peak of the Second Tribulation. Lu Li had just finished his fight. He looked over, trying to see this person's fighting style so that he could make some conclusions. Boom! As soon as the veiled lady came up, she waved her sleeves. A gentle breeze blew over. The space trembled. Her opponent was smashed into the shield. Blood oozed out from his mouth. I admit defeat. The warrior at the peak of the Second Tribulation gave up without any hesitation. This lady gave him a horrifying feeling. It was as if he had encountered a patriarch of his family. He was no match for her. What? Many people on the mountain noticed this, which caused quite a stir. After all, this lady was too mysterious. Nobody knew her. She had a good temperament and figure. Naturally, some young masters would pay attention to her. However, this lady was so powerful that she could defeat a warrior at the peak of the Second Tribulation with a wave of her hand. Many people began to speculate about this lady's identity. Some said she was a hidden disciple of the 36 forces. Others said she was a disciple of a hidden family that had just emerged. Some thought she was Yin Qingxi, the number one on the genius ranking list. They saw how Yun Kaiwa looked at this lady. Look, Yun Kaiwa is paying attention to that lady. Someone shouted. Many people turned around and saw that Yun Kaiwa was indeed looking at the veiled lady. He was not secretly sizing her up. He was standing with his hands clasped behind his back, facing the veiled lady. He was watching her fight her second opponent openly. Her second opponent was at the peak of the second tribulation. Similarly, the lady waved her sleeves, and that warrior was smashed away. He was injured at once. It felt as if they were not at the same level. She is probably Yin Qingxi, the number one on the genius ranking list. Someone shouted. Yin Kaiwa was arrogant. He didn't care about the other hidden disciples of the major families, except for this lady. Who else could it be other than Yin Qingxi, who was ranked higher than him? If she really is Yin Qingxi, then she is not the blind. Even though the lady's face was covered and her eyes could not be seen, Luli was sure that she was not the blind. He hadn't seen the blind for many years, but he could still remember her temperament. This lady's temperament was completely different from the blind's. Luli couldn't even sense a trace of familiarity from the veiled lady. No matter how hard a person tried to disguise themselves, habitual actions could not be changed. There would at least be a sense of familiarity between friends. Another opponent came. Luli paid no more attention to the veiled lady. He focused on the fight. This time, it was a warrior at the third tribulation, but just an average one. Luli didn't activate the Apotheosis Dojo. He fought with his physical strength. This man was not bad. He managed to break Luli's defense and hurt him a bit. Luli could have defeated him easily, but he chose to stall for some time. Luli was hiding his strength. He didn't want to attract too much attention, and he didn't want to show off his abilities. He didn't want to give his enemies the wrong impression that he was not particularly powerful. The fight came to an end after the time for 3 incense sticks to burn. Yin Kaiwa had won 40 fights in a row. He was about to accumulate 100 points to advance to the next level. Right at that moment, there came a miserable cry. When Luli looked over, he was stunned. Up until now, there had been so many fights. Some were seriously injured and some were disabled, but no one had died yet. For the first time, there was a death, and it was a warrior at the third tribulation. He was cut in half and died without an intact body. Chapter 2049. The contest of geniuses didn't involve life or death. But strictly speaking, it was just a competition. Geniuses from different families would gather together to compete with each other to improve themselves. At the same time, it was for the chance to enter the secret realm of primordial chaos. Therefore, this was not a real fight to the death. Generally speaking, there were no grudges between the participants, so they wouldn't kill each other. Unless they had no other choice, they would kill themselves if they didn't. The point system was used in the martial arts competition to avoid too many deaths. If one couldn't win this one, it didn't mean that one couldn't make it to the next level. If one continued to win, one could still make it to the next level. Many people looked at the killer. It was a young man in black, emotionless. His hair was braided and he had earrings on his ears. He gave off an evil vibe. Who is he? I don't know. I have never seen or heard of him. I didn't notice him when I came in. Is he a disciple of a hidden family? That doesn't make sense. How can a genius from a hidden family make enemies for his family? The one who died was the divine son of the palace of Chongyang, one of the 36 forces. Soon, people on the mountain began to discuss. Nobody knew this evil young man. If he were a famous warrior, then people wouldn't be so surprised. Moreover, the one who was killed was a god's son from one of the 36 great forces. This made people even more puzzled. The palace of Chongyang was an old great force, not like the few new forces that had just appeared. The great demon king had destroyed a few great forces, and now those heavenly islands were occupied, and new great forces were established to fill up the spots of the 36 great forces. The evil young man in black stood there coldly, as if the one he just killed was not the divine son of the palace of Chongyang, but a 3-star beast of chaos. Another challenger came up from Lu Li's side. It was a second tribulation divine god. Lu Li didn't make a move. He kept looking at the young man in black, wondering if the next challenger would be killed. Seeing that Lu Li didn't move, the challenger didn't move either. He stood there and stared at Lu Li. Soon, a new challenger came up. Many people looked over. It was a warrior at the peak of the second tribulation. The warrior at the peak of the second tribulation was under great pressure. He was nervous, but he didn't admit defeat. He made up his mind and prepared to fight for a while. He wouldn't admit defeat now. If he did, the evil young man wouldn't be able to kill him. That would be against the rules. Under everyone's gaze, the black-clothed young man held a halberd and didn't move. He just looked coldly at the peak of the second tribulation. The latter gritted his teeth and rushed forward, releasing a rather decent true meaning in an attempt to force the black-robed young man to retreat. The black-robed youth didn't move. He swung his halberd and struck forward. This strike did not cause too much of a commotion, but something that shocked everyone happened. His halberd easily struck the head of the peak second tribulation cultivator. The peak second tribulation cultivator didn't even know how to dodge. He just foolishly stopped in midair. Then, the peak second tribulation cultivator's head shattered, and he died immediately. Wow, another person died, and this time he was killed in one move. There were no fancy moves, and there was not much of a commotion. It was as easy as a martial artist killing a chicken or a duck. The most important thing was that the black-robed young man could have severely injured his opponent, but he chose to kill him instead. He crushed his opponent's head with a single strike of his halberd without any hesitation. Many of the elders leading the teams frowned, and some of them had killing intent in their eyes. Some patriarchs of the palace of Chongyang had started to ask about this man's identity and were plotting revenge. Violence was forbidden at the Island of Chaos, but he had to go back after the fight. If he took the teleportation formation back, then they would have the guts to kill him on the way. The Divine Son was the future Grand Master of their forces. Killing their Divine Son, even though it was within the rules, would be a slap to the face of the palace of Chongyang. If they didn't do something, they would be laughed at by the world. This man is strong. Lu Li squinted. He saw something. The halberd seemed to be light and slow, but it was fast. Otherwise, that warrior at the peak of the second tribulation wouldn't have been killed instantly without dodging. Law of time. Lu Li was deep in thoughts. He had learned the fundamental meaning of time, but he couldn't use it to attack. Of course, he didn't fight this black-robed young man, so he couldn't be sure if this man was using the law of time. Whoosh! While Lu Li was in deep thoughts, his opponent suddenly made a move. He sneaked over like a fox, trying to sneak up on Lu Li. Lu Li pretended that he didn't see a warrior at the second tribulation. When the warrior came over, Lu Li slapped him away. Bang! Lu Li's strength was too great. The warrior was smashed into the shield and rolled over on the ground. He crawled up in fear and looked at Lu Li, only to realize that Lu Li wasn't looking at him at all. Lu Li was still looking at the black-robed young man. I give up. The warrior knew that he was not at the same level as Lu Li. If he continued to fight, he would only be humiliating himself. He had to shout. The black-robed young man had another opponent, a warrior at the second tribulation. But as soon as he went up, he shouted, I give up. I give up. 2 people had died in a row. This man was not an idiot. Lu Li could kill the Divine Son of the Palace of Chongyang. Killing him will be no different than killing a pig or a dog. I give up. I give up. Several warriors went up, and all of them gave up. It was the same for Lu Li. It was the same for Yun Kai-wei and Tang Ning. After so many fights, there was no longer any doubt about the abilities of these warriors. Fighting them would only invite humiliation. The girl who was suspected to be the number 1 on the list, Yin Qingxi, had been winning as well. Those who went up would either be injured by her, or they would give up. Her abilities were as unpredictable as that of the black-robed young man. Lu Li believed that she was a powerful warrior at the same level as Yun Kai-wei. After the time for 2 incense sticks to burn, Yun Kai-wei was the first to reach the top 100. He flew down and landed on the top of the hill. Many went to congratulate him at once. He just nodded, unfazed by honor or disgrace. Soon, more and more people made it to the top 100. Dream Clouds, Tang Ning, and the top 10 all had a winning streak. They didn't lose once. An hour later, Lady Yi, Gan Lin, Lu Li, and Feng Yima all made it to the top 100. Lady Qin Zhanxiong made it to the top 100 as well. Lady Mu was defeated by Lu Li, and she only had about 60 points. It was uncertain if she could make it to the top 100. Well done. When Lu Li and the other three landed, Axe Demon nodded with satisfaction and said, "We didn't disgrace the Omen Island. When we get back, I will ask the Asmodean Lord and you for the credit." Lu Li and the other three bowed to express their gratitude. Axe Demon said in a low voice, "The fight to get to the top 100 is just the beginning. I think you have seen it. There are so many geniuses in this fight. The fights to come will be more difficult. I hope you will not be arrogant and rash. All of you can make it to the top 30. In that way, the Asmodean Lord and I will be proud." Top 30? Lu Li squinted. He didn't care if he could make it to the top 30 or not. All he wanted was to kill Yun Kaiwei. If he ran into Yun Kaiwei as soon as he entered the semi-finals, Lu Li wouldn't care about the rest of the fights after he killed him. What he cared about more was whether he could kill Yun Kaiwei and how he could get back to the Omen Island safely after that. P.S. That's the 4th chapter. Also, for those reading on the QQ Reading Center, there was a poll on QQ, 2017 most popular author. Chapter 2050. The ranking on the list was accurate. At least, the top 30 were quite capable. After Lu Li and the others made it to the next level, more and more people made it to the next level. The top 30 were the fastest. That being said, not many people paid attention to them. Most of them were looking at two people. One was the young man in black who killed two people, and the other was the girl who was suspected to be the number one on the list, Yin Xingxi. After Yun Kaiwei made it to the next level, his eyes never left the veiled girl. He didn't move his eyes away, even when someone was talking to him. There could only be two explanations for Yun Kaiwei to pay so much attention to her. Either Yun Kaiwei liked this girl, or she was Yin Xingxi, who was ranked higher than him. It was unlikely that Yun Kaiwei liked a girl. He was known to be obsessed with martial arts. Over the years, there was no rumor of him having an affair with any young lady. He had passed the third heaven tribulation 7 or 8 years ago. Other young masters and young ladies would have slacked off and enjoyed their youth. However, Yun Kaiwei had been staying in the Tower of Sacred Essence and never stepped out. There was a rumor that Yun Kaiwei was the son of Yun Shueishue's concubine. Yun Kaiwei was not treated well, and his mother was often bullied. When Yun Kaiwei was young, he swore that he would cultivate until he was stronger than Yun Shueishue. Then, he would make Yun Shueishue apologize to his mother on his knees. No one knew if the rumor was true, but Yun Kaiwei's reputation as a martial arts addict was probably true. This time, he rarely responded to anyone who greeted him, not even the chosen ones from the top 10 forces. If this person wasn't arrogant and supercilious, then he wasn't good at socializing or didn't like it. Therefore, many people believe that Yun Kaiwei had been staring at the veiled girl because she was Yin Xingxi. Some people went to ask Yun Kaiwei, but Yun Kaiwei didn't say anything. Even if she is not the number one on the list, Yin Xingxi is strong. She could be as strong as the top 5 on the list. Lu Li murmured with certainty after watching the veiled girl fight several times. Just now, a warrior who had undergone 3 trials was wounded by the veiled girl. Lu Li didn't think he could do it so easily. "I know who that young man in black is." Gan Lin whispered to Lu Li, "He should be a descendant of a force that was destroyed tens of thousands of years ago, the Eastern Devil Palace. His spear technique is exactly the same as that of the Eastern Devil Palace Palace Lord. It's a very powerful killing move." When Axe Demon heard Gan Lin's words, he glanced over and didn't say anything. He should have tacitly agreed with Gan Lin's words. Gan Lin thought about it and said, "Lu Li, if you run into this person, you must be careful. Warriors of the Eastern Devil Palace are born to be bloodthirsty." Back in the days, they were destroyed because they had committed too many murders. They angered the public, and many forces joined forces to attack them. Who would have thought that after tens of thousands of years, their descendants would appear again? The people of the Easter Devil Palace are all natural killers. As long as they fight, they will try their best to kill their enemies. They will not rest until they are dead. Missy nodded slightly, obviously recognizing the identity of the black-clothed young man. Feng Yima probably did not know and was listening curiously. Seeing that Gan Lin understood the situation so well, Lu Li asked the masked lady, "Do you know who this man is? Is it Yin Qingxi, the #1 genius on the genius list?" "I don't know about that." Gan Lin shook his head, and so did Missy. Gan Lin explained, "Nobody has seen Yin Qingxi. This man is masked, so we cannot be sure. Even if he is not Yin Qingxi, he must be a talented disciple of a hidden family." Feng Yima added, "This man is very strong. Not even I can win against him. You must be careful when you run into him." Lu Li and the others rolled their eyes. Feng Yima would lose his temper if he didn't show off. He had made it to the genius list as well, but he was not that strong. He made it sound like he was more powerful than the three of them. "This man is more powerful than Yun Kaiwei," Axe Demon suddenly said. He looked at the three and said in a low voice, "She is probably Yin Qingxi, the #1 genius on the genius list." Axe Demon's voice was not loud, but some people were not far away. His words were heard at once. Axe Demon's words carried weight. The news spread further and further. Soon, everyone knew that the masked woman was Yin Qingxi. After Axe Demon finished his words, Lu Li turned to Yun Kaiwei. While others were discussing, Yun Kaiwei's expressions didn't change. "It must be Yin Qingxi, and it is just someone with the same name." Lu Li was sure of this. If the lady was not Yin Qingxi, Yun Kaiwei would have changed his expression even if he didn't say anything. Yun Kaiwei didn't say anything, which was a tacit agreement. Lu Li was disappointed. He thought he didn't run into any familiar faces. The blind was his friend from the 9 universes. Now, it seemed that it was just someone with the same name. The young man from the Eastern Devil Palace progressed very fast. All his opponents would admit defeat as soon as they went up. None of them fought later. None of the powerful warriors fought against him. They were all warriors of the second tribulation or average of the third tribulation. The young man from the Eastern Devil Palace floated down after he made the breakthrough. Those around him stepped to the sides. Nobody dared to get close to him. The young man walked to a corner and sat down, ignoring everyone's stares. The lady who was supposed to be Yin Qingxi made it to the top 100 easily. Just like Yun Kaiwei and the young man from the Eastern Devil Palace, she didn't use any powerful moves. Her opponents were too weak to force them to do so. More and more people were making it to the next stage. The number had reached 60 or 70. In an hour at most, the top 100 would be announced. Lu Li didn't chat with anyone. He stared at the arenas, watching people using different kinds of moves and skills to broaden his knowledge. At the same time, he wanted to take the chance to learn something. Lady Yi and Gan Lin were doing the same. Only Feng Yima sneaked to the side and gathered with some young masters and young ladies. His face was glowing and he was drooling. Clearly, he was bragging again. An hour later, the top 100 was announced. Apart from one who was killed, all the top 30 on the list had made it to the next stage. Disciples of more than a dozen hidden families made it to the next stage as well. Lu Li and the other 3 from the Omen Island made it to the next stage. Of course, there were also a few dark horses this time. The most eye-catching were the disciples of the Eastern Devil Palace. Only 2 people had died in the competition this time, and they were both killed by him. One of them was the divine son of the Chongyang Palace. This result was not too surprising. Many people had come to participate in the battle already mentally prepared. More of the disciples of the smaller clans had come to broaden their horizons and network. The top 100 is here. The tournament is over. Teleport back to the City of Chaos. An old man shouted, "Prepare for the top 100. The semifinals will begin in 5 days. The top 30 will have the chance to cultivate in the secret realm of primordial chaos for a year. Chapter 2051. After coming out, Axe Demon let the four of them return to the manor to prepare for battle while he went to attend the banquet. Axe Demon's reputation was too great, and there were too many people who invited him to dinner. He had also declined many invitations. Otherwise, if he agreed to all of them, he would probably eat until next year. More and more people were sending cards to Luli. Luli went into closed-door cultivation and didn't attend any banquets. Miss E and Gon Lin did not go either. However, Feng Yima had accepted many invitations to banquets. After returning, he did not return to the manor once. He was always outside. On the third day of cultivation, Luli woke up in alarm. He opened the inhibition formation. It was Lady E with an invitation in her hand. She said, "Young Master Lu, someone wants to invite you to a banquet." Luli put on a bitter smile and said, "Can't you just do it for me? You know I don't like it. I really can't refuse this." Miss E shrugged her shoulders and said, "Because the banquet this time is our target, Cloud Kaiwe." Huh? Luli was surprised. Why would Yin Kaiwe invite him? He thought that he had made a mistake. Missy smiled and explained, "Don't think too highly of yourself. He didn't invite you alone, but all the top 100 contestants. Our young Master Yun is very generous, inviting 99 people in one go." "I see." Luli frowned. What was the point of going to Yun Kaiue's party? It was just going to know a few more people, but he could not observe Yun Kaiue's killer move and could not inquire about useful information. "Forget it, I'm not going." Luli shook his head and said, "This kind of banquet is boring. I don't like to socialize. Just go." "I'm not going to such a boring banquet." Young Lady E smiled and threw the invitation card on ground. She was about to turn and leave when she thought of something at the door. She said, "This time, your young Lady Qiong and young Lady Mu will be attending." "Oh, right. I heard that young Lady Inqingxi will be attending as well. There are so many beauties. Aren't you moved?" "Inqingxi will go as well?" Luli frowned. This Inqingxi shouldn't be the blind he knew. That being said, the fact that Inqingxi would be there still gave him an impulse. Maybe Inqingxi had a treasure that could change her appearance completely? No matter how much a person changed his appearance, it was difficult to change his eyes. If Inqingxi was there, he could see her eyes, and he would be sure that this Inqingxi was not the same Inqingxi. "All right, let's go." Luli made up his mind. If Inqingxi refused to go, he could find an excuse to leave. After all, there were so many people here. It wouldn't matter if he left. Lady Yi's eyes revealed a hint of resentment. She said, "You really forget your friends when you are in love. Are you in love with Lady Qiong, Lady Mu, or Inqingxi?" "You changed your mind when you heard they were going?" "Yes." Luli grinned and said, "I have my eyes on Inqingxi, the number one on the list. If I can marry her, I will close the door and let go of my wife if anyone dares to bully me." "Useless," Missy pouted and said, "Then you and Gon Lin can go. I won't be going. It's too boring to be surrounded by a bunch of flies. Only beauties have fly waistbands. This proves that you are charming." Luli picked up the invitation with a smile. It was written that it was dusk. It was still early, so Luli continued to cultivate. When it was getting dark, he took a bath and went to Gon Lin. Gon Lin received the invitation. He was hesitant at first, but since Luli asked him to go, he stood up. The banquet was to be held in the largest tavern in the City of Chaos. The tavern had more than 100 halls, and it was a property of the Saint Origin Hall. When they went out, they attracted many people's attention. It was hard not to attract attention when only 100 out of tens of thousands of people made it to the next round. The tavern was not far away. They didn't take chariots or anything like that. They walked there on foot. There were guards stationed outside the tavern. When they arrived, a steward saw the invitations in Lu Li and Gon Lin's hands. The steward personally led them to a huge palace in the backyard. At the gate of the castle stood an old man in a splendid robe with 3 people. When the old man in splendid robe saw Lu Li and Gon Lin, he walked over and cupped his fists. "I am Yun Xian, a patriarch of the Saint Origin Hall. Young Master is entertaining guests inside, so he asked me to come and greet you on his behalf. It is an honor to have you here." Luli didn't bother to say such polite words. He didn't say anything. Ganlin had to go over and exchange some pleasantries. Then, Yin Xian led the two inside. The palace was splendid. Candles were lit on both sides. It was as bright as day. The hall was spacious with many white jade tables. At the center, there were 10 white jade tables. On the left and right sides, there were several rows with 45 white jade tables on each side. The hall was covered with red carpets. The white jade tables were filled with bejeweled fruits. Next to each white jade table was a maid. It was extremely luxurious. Swish, swish, swish. When Lu Li and Ganlin came in, they attracted many people's attention. Many people's eyes glowed when they saw Lu Li. Some even stood up to greet him. Lu Li hated meaningless greetings. He didn't even look at the others. He walked to a corner and found a white jade table to sit down. Ha ha ha. A hearty laugh came. Yun Kaiwei, who was sitting at the center, stood up and said, "Guys, look who is here. Our famous god of massacre from hell and young Master Ganlin, the grandson of Axe Demon." Yun Kaiwei walked over. Lu Li had no other choice but to stand. Yun Kaiwei stood in front of Lu Li, cupped his fists, and said, "I am surprised that God of Massacre is willing to do me a favor. God of Massacre, please take a seat." Yun Kaiwei pointed to the third seat on the left of the center. Lu Li was surprised. The seats were arranged randomly. The 9 seats at the center were the most honorable. Yun Kaiwei had thought highly of Lu Li by letting him sit at the center. Lu Li cupped his fists and said, "Young Master Yun, you are too kind. I can just sit at the back." "How can you do that?" Yun Kaiwei looked around and said, "If you sit at the back, I don't think many people here would dare to sit down. The God of Massacre has made a mess at the Storm Sea area and is famous at the second heaven. Now, he dares to offer the black tortoise fruit as a reward. Who would not be convinced by such a feat? God of Massacre, please take a seat. Don't say no." "Yes, yes. God of Massacre, don't say no. Please take a seat. The God of Massacre from hell deserves a seat of honor. If the God of Massacre sits at the back, we will have to stand up." "That's right. God of Massacre, please take a seat." Dozens of people had arrived in the hall. Many of them echoed. Lu Li wanted to insist, but he had no other choice but to bow to the crowd. Then he glared at young Master Qin, who was making a fuss, and sat at the third seat at the center. Even though Ganlin was the grandson of Axe Demon, he didn't have this honor. But he was also invited to the first row on the left. It was probably because of Axe Demon that he could sit there. Young Master Qin also sat in the first row on the left. Lady Qiong sat next to him. Lady Mu, on the other hand, had to condescend to the second row. Lady Mu had made it to the top 100, but she was one from the bottom. If it were not for the fact that she encountered Lu Li, she would have made it. After Lu Li sat down, she pouted and glared at him. Chapter 2052. More and more people arrived. Yin Kaiwei was influential. Lu Li had only been sitting for a short while when 60 or 70 people came to the hall. This time, he invited the top 100 warriors. Those who were not in the top 100 were not qualified to come. Most of the top 100 warriors were males. The females were basically goddesses from some forces or disciples of some hidden families. There were less than 30 females here. All of them were beautiful and elegant. Naturally, these young ladies were sought after by many young masters. They were all in the top 100 with strong fighting abilities and a promising future. What was more, they all had big forces behind them. Ladies here were the best partners for men. Of course, the top young masters would also be sought after by the young ladies, such as Yin Kaiwei, Tang Ning, and the top 10 young masters on the list. These young masters were destined to become the most powerful warriors at the second heaven and dominate a region. Those young ladies were not stupid. At their status, young masters would not be interested in them given their looks. Who didn't want their husband to be a lord? Who didn't want their husband to be a good-for-nothing? Some young masters proposed toasts to Lu Li, but none of the young ladies, apart from Lady Qiong and Lady Mu, took the initiative to propose a toast to Lu Li. Lu Li was a celebrity with strong abilities. Of this, there was no doubt. But none of those young ladies tried to be friendly with Lu Li. Some of them even avoided looking at Lu Li, Luli knew very well that he was not the son-in-law in the eyes of these young ladies. Many young masters came to toast to him just to be polite. They didn't really want to be friends with him. Why? There were many reasons. Two of them were the most important. First, Luli had no background. Luli was not on the Demon King's side. He was just a regular disciple of the Omen Island. Second, Luli had offended too many people. He had offended two forces. Even though he could survive for now, nobody could tell when he would be killed by the Fu family and the Hall of Black Flames. There were many geniuses in the world, but there were also many who died prematurely. Before a genius became a powerful warrior, many people would choose to wait and see. What was more, Luli was too violent and reckless. Killing the godson of two forces was a stupid act in itself. This kind of character could easily attract a monstrous disaster. Those young ladies weren't stupid. They wouldn't want to hook up with a person who had no future and might die at any time. On the other hand, Feng Yima was slightly more popular. Feng Yima had already arrived. Although he was seated in the second row, he was handsome and had a sharp edge to him. In addition, he liked to brag. Many of the young ladies were very courteous to him on the surface and frequently toasted him. Luli was happy to be alone. He sat in silence. Yun Kaiwe, on the other hand, toasted him twice. What bothered Luli was that more than 80 of the top 100 had come, but Yin Qingxi was nowhere to be seen. That young man from the Eastern Devil Palace was nowhere to be seen either. Let's leave after a while. Luli felt bored sitting here. He might as well go back to consume the divine quintessence, which could enhance his abilities. The main reason was that he was about to have a life and death battle with Yin Kaiwe. Sitting here like a friend right now made him feel very uncomfortable. He didn't have any grudges with Yin Kaiwe, but he had promised Fairy Tianyun, so he could only kill him more and more. Luli was concerned about his own life. If he couldn't kill Yin Kaiwe, he wouldn't be able to go back to the Omen Island. He would be hunted down by the Hall of Black Flame and the Fu family. He would have to run around like a stray dog. In the end, he would attract many rogue cultivators and forces to join him, and he would die without a burial place. Young master. After the time for one incense stick to burn, a patriarch of the Saint Origin Palace walked in. He walked to Yin Kaiwe and whispered to him, "Young master, Lady Yin is here." Lady Yin? Li's eyes glowed. The veiled lady was Yin Qingxi, the number one on the list. He sat up straight and stared at the gate with his eyes glowing. Many people noticed it as well. They all turned to look at him. Yin Kaiwe stood up and walked to the gate to greet them. After a while, he came back with a young lady. "Guys," Yin Kaiwe smiled. He waved his hand to quiet everyone down. Solemnly, he said, "I would like to introduce someone to you. This is Lady Yin Qingxi, the number one on the list." What? The place was livened up. There had been many rumors, but this was the first time that it was confirmed. The number one on the list was an honor, not to mention that Yin Qingxi had passed the 5th level of the Saint Origin Tower. It was a pity that Yin Qingxi's face was still covered, which disappointed many people. Still, many people went over to her. Luli didn't go over. He just looked on and listened. Yin Qingxi was cold and aloof. She seldom spoke, but after a few words, Luli was disappointed. Yin Qingxi's voice was pleasant, but it was not the blind's. So, they must not be the same person. Luli felt even more bored after he was sure that Yin Qingxi was not the blind. He planned to leave after the greetings were over. Yin Qingxi had been dealing with the others for a while. Then, she was invited by Yun Kaiwe to sit in the middle. This seat had always been reserved for her. Clearly, Yin Kaiwe was interested in Yin Qingxi. His eyes were filled with passion. He was indifferent to others, including some young ladies from wealthy families. But he was different to Yin Qingxi. Everyone could tell there was something wrong. After Yin Qingxi sat down, Luli stood up and said, "Young Master Yin, young masters and young ladies, I have something to attend to. I will leave now." Everyone was stunned. The banquet had just begun, and Luli was leaving? That was not giving him face. If so, why did he come to this banquet? Yin Kaiwe was surprised as well. But seeing how determined Luli was, Yin Kaiwe didn't want to stay any longer. He cupped his fists and said, "Since you have something to attend to, then we will not force you to stay. Today, I have invited you all here because I want to ask you a favor. Now that you have entered the semifinals, I hope that you will not go too far in the following fights. Don't hurt each other's lives. It is not easy to cultivate. We don't have any grudges. There is no need to fight to the death. Yes, young Master Yun is right. We can settle the semifinals after we have a winner. That's right. I will answer young Master Yun's call." "Okay, we have made an appointment," many echoed. Yin Kaiyue's suggestion was not bad. After all, it was just a competition, not a fight to the death. Everyone should restrain themselves and settle the winner. Luli nodded but said nothing. How could he promise? His purpose of coming to the Island of Chaos was to kill Yin Kaiwe. How could he agree to anything? "Let's go." Luli cupped his fists and was about to leave the white jade platform when In Xingxi took the initiative to speak. "As soon as I am here, the Azura wants to leave. Do you have some prejudice against me?" Xingxi came here because she heard that the Azura god was coming. Everyone was in an uproar. In Xingxi didn't say more than 10 words since she came in. When others greeted her, she would only nod or say 1 or 2 words. She cherished her words like gold. Now, she was talking to Luli. "You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories."